cloud. That's a lot better for both of us. It's recording. If anybody wants to turn on their closed captions for themselves, feel free. Okay, I don't see us on Facebook quite yet, so I should be. I don't see us. Let me refresh this. I see us now. Okay, we got 5 people. Hello, everybody. Say hello or give us a like. And I wanted to see if anybody has a shortcut of the link. Yeah, I'll give them the Zoom link in the comments as well. So this is very casual, guys. Joseph and I decided we were just really spontaneous. We made more headway than we expected. And yeah, we were like so excited with what we had. We wanted to share it even ahead of launch. So we don't really have a launch date yet, but we are going to be doing it within the next 4 weeks, very likely. Hi, Sorik. Here, let me write. Here's the Zoom link. Oops. Okay. And it's only me and Joseph, and because we're both presenting, I'm going to ask you guys who are watching to help out if I need you guys to post a Zoom link, or just to point out where a question may be or where someone might be raising their hand. I appreciate that. And thanks, Joseph, for letting some people in. Hello, Scott. Hello, Amina. Hello, George. Hello, Margaret. So, okay. We still have people going into the room, so we could wait about another minute or so.
Yeah, this is gonna be super fun. I'm just so excited for this.
Well, whenever Joe's in the picture, fun also comes along. Joseph knows how to make things pretty fun.
If you don't have fun and if you're, doing astrology, are you doing it right?
Yeah, we don't want people to cry. We want people to smile, at least feel some peace. Okay. I think we're going to be ready to roll.
I think we are too.
Okay. Very good. All right. Would you like to take over the screen and start sharing, or would you like me to get into remote activation?
Why don't you introduce, because I'm sure that there's going to be some people who are not familiar with my face yet, and the last presentation some people may recognize. So yeah, you take over first and I'll jump in.
Okay, so hello everybody. I'm here with my business partner and very good friend, Joseph Milnes. I've known Joseph since 2018. I was one of the first writers to start doing delineations on his website that he created 110,000% from scratch. His website is AstroloGeeks.com. And I think Joe might drop that in the comments on Facebook. And I remember when we were first talking about making this software where, from day one, I was already talking about it with Joseph, but I moved a lot and life was very busy. But I remember at the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, when this group started to have a meteoric rise, what happened was I gave Joseph a call and I'm like, look, we really got to get on software on this because it's becoming a subject that people are going to be able to understand as long as I'm sharing as much material, and everybody's so cooperative. It's a really, really great group. So what we did is we started looking on how to do the calculations, and all I really need, I went to so many astrologers, I went to several astronomers even, and we didn't get help. There was one person who did help us with trying to figure out the calculations, and that was really good because it got us energized to really crack the code. And the way he was able to do it was very different from the way we did it. But we're ever so grateful for just getting us really right in the mindset. Joseph did all the trigonometry on this. I don't know how. I wouldn't have been able to do it at all. He also did all the coding, all the layouts. I'm the one who did all the research, all the discovery. And as tenacious as I was, it was like, I went everywhere that I could look. So yes, I went out for books. I took a history class. I took an astronomy class, and all these things actually started fusing together all at the same moment. And Joseph put it together. It was crazy, like the string of nights that we were working on this together. So I'm really happy. This is just the very, very, very beginning of it. We're doing the Enmundo method. So the Enmundo is placing where the planets are in space and where they project onto the Earth. Different from zodiacal, which doesn't really include the latitudes or the declinations. Zodiacal matches more with your zodiac chart, but it's really where the planets land above the Earth and where they project on the Earth that really, really make a difference. I have traveled a lot. I've lived on, I can't even tell you how many lines, like, geez, probably at least 12 lines across the world that I've actually lived on. And when I say lived on, I was there for, I think the shortest place was like 3 months and then 6 months, but usually at least a year, because many of these places I had residency permits. I've had residency permits in 8 different countries across the world. So I know the difference between if Pluto is really right next to you or Venus is right next to you versus not. I've been able to see it through my family's charts as well too. And I've been studying relocation astrology since before I even knew it was really around, before astrocartography. When I was 18 years old, I was overseas and I felt like the land vibrated differently. And I was always into astrology. So I was like, man, I bet you this has something to do with astrology. And that's how I was looking into relocation astrology. But once I found out about astrocartography, I was always using it. And I kind of, look, the software out there is fun, it's useful, but I have always needed a bit more. Like I've always wanted to move within my lines, or I could have it on my phone or just look at it from a live perspective. So that's what Joseph and I are currently working on. But when we were doing the trigonometry, thank you, Joseph, so much. He got it down to like the 6th decimal or something. And we found out that makes a difference of like 30 miles. That's a lot of difference when it comes to a line. A lot of the software we discovered rounds up, and so it's not as accurate, even though it's in the Enmundo. It's, again, that 30 miles is a big deal. And I'll show you a real life example that is very close and personal to me with my husband's chart and his Venus line. And the other thing we've noticed too is that when you get to extreme latitudes, and I've never noticed it, no matter how much I've used all these different softwares, is that when you get to the extreme latitudes and the arc between the ascendant and the descendant meets the meridian, once you go like above or below 70 degrees north or south, it becomes really difficult to get that to join together. So a lot of softwares would just draw a line to connect it. And it was so clever of them. You'll be able to see it if you're, for instance, you could see it on Astro. I have time passages and they do that too. I believe AstroGold does it. I haven't played enough with AstroGold's astrocartography software or relocation software, but we'll just go through a lot of these examples, and I'll show you how I used to travel using the old ways, like all the other relocation astrology software that's out there, with the exception of astro.com. And I don't use AstroSeek. There's a lot of glitches. We'll show that with you. But with astro.com it uses OpenStreetMaps, and there was like all these steps I would have to take in order to figure out like, where's the line on the exit? So I could get off on this exit on the highway and really like get immersed and totally like having that planet shine down on me. Versus what we're going to, you know, what you could do now with Joseph software for now, and how it's just going to improve from there. And of course, using remote activation, which that's the main focus of what we're going to do with the relocation astrology, is show you how to use the little yellow man in Google, where if you need a bit of Venus in your life, you just drop your little yellow man in the map and you'll see the open streets of it. And Joseph will also go over a lot of other aspects in the software, like how to get to create a Cosmo map for yourself and how to see your natal chart and a few other functions. Interpretations are rolling in. We'll get to that in a bit. But without further ado, Joseph, I'd like to introduce you and have you come in right now.
Okay, thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you for the lovely words. I wanted to add some points to some of the things you had mentioned. You know, some of the other softwares, what she means by rounding is that, because we can't really see the under the hood code, but what we can see from the way that the calculations are done by comparing the outputs is that there's two different ways that the ephemeris will generate a response in the software. And most astrologers are more familiar with using, especially when it comes to declination and right ascension, they use arc minutes, seconds, and degrees. And those outputs can lose accuracy when we're performing trigonomic functions. And so we opted for the decimal placement or the decimal output of the information. So that way the precision of the math is straight to the 20th actually number. And then at some point you just have to, like, when it comes to the responses, we just have to like output it to the 6th digit. Only because with the computer response, it's just going to be like each right ascension is like, you know, let's say it's like 141.01696, and it's like 20 different numbers after that decimal point. And so the math is already done, and so we just output it, the latitude longitudes, by the decimal format. A couple of other differences that we noticed between the softwares is that so other than the rounded about, some of those decimal points may not be rendering, if they are using decimals, then they're not rendering in that precise decimal format. They're being parsed to either miss that or to round up or round down to the nearest whole digit. So that is also problematic when it comes to the numbers, when it comes to taking the calculations and running them through the trigonometric functions. So in an arc sign, it was we found that the more precise you got, the better results you got. And then there's also a difference in the ephemeris in you know, you can look at NASA's JPL and see that there is going to be a slight difference in the declination or the right ascension of a planet when you compare from astrometric positions versus apparent positions. And we opted to use the astrometric because that's where they are at in like where they're physically at versus where they're observed at. And so that's where going to be where some of the differences are, is that the astrometric positions show us how close we really are to a line. And then there's of course like some other softwares, the way that they have, like I think it was time passages they use when you put in a natal chart, for example, into the software. Their latitude longitudes are measured in, again, degrees, minutes, seconds, but the latitude and longitudes they have for specific cities are off by a whole degree or more. And they don't match what precise latitude longitudes we have from Google Maps. And so their atlas may also be wrong. So there's a lot of room for error in other softwares when it comes to precision that will give us differences in the calculation, from inputting the natal chart to calculating the what we're calling cosmic map lines, but this is what astrocartography is. And so the better data you have, the better data you get. So with no further ado, let us go right into it. Cindy, if you can also open up AstroSeek and show my chart on there. So that way, once I open up my chart in the software, then we can show them the major differences. One thing you'll notice when you're using AstroSeek is that they are using zodiacal approach, which greatly changes a lot of the lines. And that makes a huge difference. And I can tell you right now, I've been to my Pluto line, so I will definitely tell the story here once we get to showing these charts here, why this approach is more accurate. And if you compare to Astrodeens, even Astrodeens has my Pluto line in a different position than AstroSeek, and it's closer to the one we have. So that is going to show that AstroSeek's many problems why you shouldn't rely on that software to produce relocation charts, and why you shouldn't totally take it for what it is. It's not as robust as even Astrodeens is. So let's get right into it. First thing I'm going to show off is my screen. And let's see, where is that at? Share screen feature. There it is at the bottom. Whole screen. I'm just going to do my whole screen so that you guys can see. All right. So my website is astrologeeks.com. Astrology powered by Google. Essentially, all of our services are dependent on Google services to help with the ease of providing information like time zones, latitude, longitudes from Google Maps, using Google Maps and Fire-based push notifications. There's a lot of Google services that we use to help make this a mobile-friendly experience and multi-platform experience. This is known as a progressive web app. So I want to make a few points out. If you're using an iPhone, you may not get some of the support that you would get from using a Mac OS X, Windows desktop, and an Android phone, simply because iOS doesn't support push notifications from the web. But if you are using, and they also don't support progressive web apps, and that has something to do with iOS's goal to maintain all their applications to be native. But in Android, if you visit it on your phone through the Google browser or through the Chrome browser, or if you visit the website on your desktop with Chrome or with Microsoft Edge, you'll be able to use this feature, and also Chrome for Mac OS X. So first thing you may want to do is right up here in the right by the browser. When you visit the website, you might be prompted to receive notifications if you're on a platform that supports push notifications. I recommend you accept that, because notifications will come up on your device in about 15 minutes of real time for a transit when a planet goes retrograde, direct, or enters a new sign. And it'll show up in your push notification drawer on your Windows phone or your Windows desktop or Mac OS X or anything that supports notifications. See right here, this is my notification here. It says new planetary transit, Venus just entered Taurus. That was Thursday. So just make sure that you just have notifications enabled. It'll ask you for your location and other permissions. So we're not collecting any sensitive data through those means, just using them to support the app. And you'll see here pretty soon. In the top right corner, you may see this little button here. It says install AstroCloud. And on Android, if you press in Google Chrome and you press the settings button, which is like the three little dots, what's called the hamburger menu, you'll also see a prompt to install app or install AstroCloud. And it'll also suggest on your phone to like add to home screen, so you can have this installed on your device. And I'll show real quick. So I'm going to go ahead and hit install here on install app. and boom, we're ready to go. AstroCloud is now installed in my software, and I can type it in here in my programs list, and boom, there is the AstroCloud. And it's now on my desktop as well. So it is ready to go from opening from there. And you don't have to use the browser necessarily to view it, and it supports full screen mode. So when you create an account, you automatically get free membership to AstroCloud free. So you can start getting right into adding calculations and doing this dashboard here, which this here will definitely ask you for your location. When it asks for your location, go ahead and give it permission, and it'll calculate the right now chart in your current location. Right now, we're in a waning crescent moon at 1 degrees Pisces. In my area, it's about 50 degrees, and it's going to get a whopping hot of 53 degrees. Spring's right around the corner. And we are working on interpretations for a lot of things. You'll get cryptocurrency tracking, some latest news, that kind of thing. In the AstroCloud, first thing you'll have to do is add an entry to begin any calculations. And as a premium user, you'll be able to add a photo for any person that you're going to be adding, and some contact information. If you're paying for them, let's say I'll just go ahead and add my handsome face here. And this will allow you to, see if I can just do this. Save image, and then you can upload it into your contact information. It'll definitely help out. Here's where you're going to enter a location. So when you add a birth database entry, the old way still works. If you don't know the exact hospital or address you were born at, you can just enter the city, and it'll go ahead and go with the location of where the capital or that latitude longitude for the city is going to be placed at. If you do happen to know the hospital or the exact address, let's say you're born at home, you know that address, you can enter that precise address in, and it'll get the geo coordinates for there. And then you just go ahead and accept the terms of service and hit submit, and you're ready to go. From there, there's two ways to access the AstroCloud. And that is, if you're using mobile, for example, just hit this hamburger menu here and go to AstroCloud and then predictive tools. When you're on the AstroCloud dashboard, the other way is to, you see at the bottom here, we have dashboard, we have My Cloud, which lets you view your database entries, and you can edit them and do more information at any time. Let's go ahead and type my name in here. So I've got a few versions of myself in here. And here you can view the natal chart. There is a function to show a QR code, and you can actually scan and save QR code versions of natal charts and pass them along to each other, only using this app. So that way you can quickly skip the add birth entry process and just like automatically save a chart with this code. You can also, if you have the plus version, you can call or email that person, and then of course your edit and delete functions. So let us, and oh yeah, so here's the add entry button. It's the big blue button. Anytime you need to add an entry, it's going to be there, or in the menu under add new chart. And then predictive tools is this eyeball over here. I'm going to close this one and then leave it. So here's going to be the eyeball for predictive tools, and then the hearts for relationship tools. We don't have any relationship tools up yet. I'm still working on adding calculations to predictive tools, but I'm expecting to have these done before the next 60 days. So I'm pretty much wrapping up here with the amount of calculations that I need to get finished here for predictive tools. Again, this is a whole work in progress, so I'm always constantly working on this every day. I'm up late sometimes programming. So let's go first to view, I don't know, Cindy, what do you think? My natal chart, or should I just go right into CosmoMaps?
Go to your natal chart, why not?
Okay, so you just hover over the calculation, and here I have a lot of database entries, so it just helps me to select my database here. And I'm just going to enter this one here for my information. Just click it, and then boom, we are ready to go. You can see my natal chart. This is in whole sign houses, and I'm a Libra rising with a Cancer midheaven, Sun in Aquarius conjunct a retrograde Mercury. Moon in Virgo, and those are my big four. You click here for latitude, longitudes. If you now, I'm still working on interpretations, but there are some interpretations provided for when you click a position. Sun in Aquarius, Sun in the 5th house, and these can change based on your settings, houses, and then the aspects. And this is a natal aspect, so pull up interpretations for some of these. And if you see something like this where like, oh, there isn't an aspect yet, try again later, it's just because I haven't added them to the database yet. I have a lot of work focusing on calculations, but Cindy is working on interpretations for CosmoMaps. So those are going to be updated a lot. And over the next 2 weeks, we expect to have almost all of them complete. You can change your orbs here for aspects, like say you don't want quincunx, and maybe you want to reduce your conjunctions down to like 3 or 4. We can reduce everything down, and it'll update the aspect list. As you can see, the amount of lines on the chart I've changed, and I don't have to leave the page or anything like that. It's all within the settings. You have settings here in the software under Manage My Account, and you can choose your default settings right off the go. So let's say that you're a whole sign fan like me. It's all going to be under AstroCloud settings or account details. Your birth information and your profile for astrology calculations for yourself will go under account details. And here you can enter your birth information. And I'll just show real quick. So under here, right here under birth info, boom, and you can add your birth information to your account. So that way, when you go visit the dashboard, you can click the personal tab under here, and it'll calculate for you your, see, it shows my sun sign, and it shows my current annual perfection. I'm in a Leo perfection. So the sun is my time lord, and my active house is the 11th whole sign house. The sun is transiting Pisces in the 6th house. And then here's my chart ruler. So since I'm a Libra rising, Venus is the ruler, and it shows where Venus is transiting right now. And then here's my natal cosmodines and my average horoscope. These are my current transits. And if you click them as well, we try to pull up interpretations for these. So that's pretty fun there. That comes in with when you add your birth information to your profile. And you can always quickly access your AstroCloud settings from clicking here. These will allow you to change, for example, your theme, house system, and orbs. Let's just go, and so let's go right into house system. As you can see, I've chosen whole sign. You can always switch between Placidus or anything else, and then just hit save. And when you click the OK button, it takes you right back here. Again, orbs, natal orbs, you can choose how wide or strict you want them to be. And once you make a change, you can go ahead and process those changes. So I'm going to go back. And themes are something that come with the site. So if you see that maybe mine doesn't look like yours, it's only because this is the default theme that comes with free memberships. Paid memberships include some themes that come with it for free, and then we have some premium themes too. I like these dark ones so I can see the background a lot better. So as you'll probably see that my theme is going to be Aegean Cliff. And I'm going to be adding some new themes later on, but right now we're just kind of focusing on the development. So moving back to predictive tools, I'm going to go ahead and move right into CosmoMaps.
Oh, wait, Joseph,
yeah,
we do have one question.
Yes.
Terry McMurphy is asking for your birth info. Can you add the longitude and latitude directly for birthplace?
No, but if you want that feature, you should totally, if I get enough requests for that, then if there's enough demand for it, then I would definitely consider adding in a manual latitude longitude. That'd be great. And it would be in decimal format. So if you want that feature, just shoot me an email at support@astrologeeks.com. I'll take note of that. And if I get enough people requesting that, then I'll go ahead and put that in. How's that sound?
Works good. Works good for him.
Okay, cool. So here, I'm going to go ahead and just choose my chart, and we'll get right into calculating the CosmoMaps. Paid members don't get advertisements. So if you see advertisements on mine, it's because I'm using it to test on myself. So I'm just going to hide the ads. And here we go. This is our Cosmo map in Mundo technique. And as you can see, I can tab between the map, the natal wheel, my planets, houses, and aspects. So it's like having a natal chart plus the Cosmo map all in one, so you don't have to leave. And we have all the basic features here, like house system and orbs. So if you needed to change your natal chart, house system or orbs, that will affect only the natal wheel, but it's not going to affect the calculation of your map, since that has nothing to do with it. And here we can zoom in pretty close. Let's go to, let me just search real quick. I'm going to search for Googleplex, because this is something, that's probably one of the coolest things that I found, is that this is the headquarters of Google here. And there's no joke, I couldn't make this up, that it is right within orb of my Saturn IC line. And if you click it, it'll show it's on my Saturn IC. Astrology powered by Google, right? That's right there next to Googleplex. So, and then a really interesting feature is that, like, we can view, when you zoom in, since it is Google Maps, we can view like places that are right on or within orb. You can see like, and it's all Silicon Valley, right? So here's a hotel right on Silicon Valley, and we can just click view on Google Maps, and boom, here we are. We can view the entire place and get images for places that are near the line. And this is great for helping, like, get a feel for like where you're going, create travel plans, since clearly you can just get directions. And, you know, if you're picking out hotels and other bodies that are right on the map, you can make reservations and add this to your travel plan. As you can see how Silicon Valley looks, it's very, for me in my chart, it looks very clean. It looks very modern, kind of corporate-y over here. So it's very orderly. I think it's really beautiful. So I'm not opposed to Silicon Valley. It's just the way that I feel when I look at it. From remote activation, I can feel the energy by looking at it. I'll go ahead and go back. So like I said, you can always just go to directions, check availability, whatever. And this is if you're going to be planning on hotels, right? There's other things we can do with this map as well here. For example, we can take our man and drop him anywhere where it says we can drop him. Let's see, I'll go ahead and put it right over here. Let's see if it'll take me there. And we can view places near our lines right with a pin drop and see that 360 view wherever it's supported.
That's remote activation going on for you guys.
Yep, this is pretty cool. And so we were tinkering around with this and getting a feel for it. So now that, and the cool part is when you place a search right now, you're going to drop a pin on the map. So you can start building like little lists of locations and stuff like that on the chart, and then refer to them later. So since I pinned it, I can come back and click it and whatever, we can add some more. And if you want, Cindy, I can stop sharing my screen, but let's go ahead and show this Pluto line. So a major difference between my this software and AstroloGeeks shows this same line, but compared to AstroloGeeks, this Pluto ascendant line does not appear in the same place as it does on AstroloGeeks, and it is more than likely because of the technique. And also might be because of the data they're being inputting. But I can tell you from experience that I've been to Key West versus Miami, and the influence of being near this Pluto line was much greater being on Key West. And we'll go ahead and tell some stories there. Cindy, I'm going to stop sharing. And if you would like to pull up my chart on AstroloGeeks and show everybody where they draw the line.
Okay, so this is in regards, I'll just give you, do you mind if because I have to, in order to show the difference with your line, I'd have to get Stellarium up, and I didn't want to use too much CPU on there. So I'm gonna, after I'm done with this little section, I'm gonna jump to Ken first, and then I'll jump back to you, and I'll go to Stellarium as you're like showing a few more features. And I'll let you know when I have it up, just because the CPU. But Okay, so I'm going to show you a difference with like my husband's line. So let me share the screen. Okay. I'll just share my whole desktop here so you guys have a great, okay. All right, so you guys could see my desktop, right? I think you guys
Yeah.
could. So let me try to get this out of the way. All right, so let me get that out of the way. So many things in the way. All right, so here is my husband's line in Chicago, Illinois. This is the center of Chicago, and he has his Venus line, his Venus on the midheaven right here. Now, if I'm going to try to show you something that's kind of, you know, visually equal on astro.com, here is Chicago, and there his Venus line. Now, what's really interesting, they're using OpenStreetMaps, and I could, you know, it's a little bit more work to zoom in and out. Like I can only use these buttons. Of course, if I'm on like a phone, I could do the pinch in and pinch out. But right here, and especially you guys that are familiar with Chicago, you could see how much difference it makes. Let me see if I could even possibly split these screens and put them side by side, just to show the difference of the CosmoMaps to what we got here. Or I could even just try to, sorry guys, if this appears really sloppy, we just, okay. Now I had to kind of zoom out a little bit more with astro.com because of how much further away the Venus line is from the loop or downtown Chicago. As you could see here, it's significantly closer. As a matter of fact, it's about 31 or 32, 30 some odd miles closer to the loop or the downtown area of Chicago in CosmoMaps than it is in astro.com. And that's going back to what Joseph was explaining earlier about the rounding that they do. And of course they round up, all of the other softwares round up. So, you know, I mean, this is a big deal. I mean, this is part of the ways that we've tested whether or not our method really was true to form or not. As we live here in Chicago, we really do feel the Venus midheaven a lot stronger, a lot more direct. As a matter of fact, you know, it brings us about 7 miles away from where we really live in Chicago. The other thing too is that here, I mean, it's not so simple going back and forth between, you know, OpenStreetMaps and Chicago because, you know, and here I'm just gonna like, to get to the zoom, it's really nice. You just kind of, you could see how smooth that is. Whereas over here, it's like click, 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 and I have to kind of slide over. You see what I mean? It's like, as I'm doing it, I'm kind of frustrated already. Luckily, because I know the area enough, I know how far I'm going to have to like zoom in or out. So as you could see with, you know, here's some landmarks, aerial landmarks where you could see the fork of the river and everything. Now you could zoom in a nice distance on OpenStreetMaps, but not the same way that you could zoom in with the Cosmo map using the Google Maps and everything. So if, you know, I'm dropping a pin, and let me exit, zoom out here, just so we could show you where exactly this midheaven line is. So that would be, it kind of takes
Pretty close
us
to Geneva, I think.
Yeah, I kind of want to draw like a straight line. So it takes us kind of to, yeah, Elgin. We'll take it over here, like we're close to Glen Ellen. So we could drop this over here.
Oh, I see. It's past Naperville.
Oh, let me go back then. And all you have to do to go back is just click that back button. It's pretty easy.
It's just to the west of Naperville.
Okay, so let me see where Naperville is. Of course, because I'm looking straight at it, I don't see it.
Bottom left corner. And it's the bigger
Naperville.
text.
That's a pretty far distance. Okay, so let me just go longitudinally. So that's like kind of where West Chicago is, Glen Ellen, really, right? And I mean, here's the other thing about remote activation. I look at this and I really don't see much, something that's remarkable. I don't feel peace in my heart. I don't feel harmony. I don't look at it and feel like, wow, there's a place that really feels like home for me. Not that it's ugly. I think it's very beautiful, but it just doesn't resonate with me. My husband, on the other hand, he's like, wow, let's go and visit. Now we could view this on Google Maps, and there's actually an extra step that goes here. I was trying to rehearse it and it just didn't work out, but okay. So sorry guys about the messiness. So, I'm just going to pretend like we're at Geneva, and I'm going to draw a straight line from Geneva and get directions to get to Chicago. And we could see how far away we are from the center of Chicago. So it takes us 44.8 miles or 45 miles. Now over here, when it takes us, and that's, so it puts the Venus line like 45 miles away from where we live, according to astro.com. But if we're really looking at it in the CosmoMaps, we're closer to like Oak Park, Cicero. So if I put this yellow guy over here, view on Google Maps, and I don't need the instant. Joseph, what am I doing here?
You are in a office furniture center.
Okay, let me just write Cicero to keep it, or Buddy Bear Car Wash. How about that? Because that's like right there. I could probably even click on this. Okay, and get directions to Chicago. And you'll see it's about 7 miles. So 7 miles is way different from 44 miles when we're talking about how accurate a map is, like how much closer a line is. That 30 miles, imagine if you're like deciding to buy a house based on the astrocartography lines, and you go off 30 miles. That's a lot to go off of. I mean, honestly, in some charts, that 30 miles could take you to a totally different line if you have conjunctions, really tight conjunctions in your chart. And yeah.
I was about to say, let's go ahead and show them the Pluto line difference that I was mentioning earlier in my chart from AstroSeek to CosmoMaps. And you can even show it in Astro, and that will show everybody the difference between AstroSeek and then even AstroGeeks and us. Okay,
that's where I'm going to need you to take the screen share so I could get it up on Stellarium and show them the difference of what Pluto is in the first house versus the 12th house above the horizon, below the horizon.
Okay, cool. So I'll do, because I don't really use AstroGeeks, so I will just go ahead and open up AstroSeek if that's okay.
Okay, and I have AstroSeek open with your chart, and I also have it open. I'll get it open on astro.com. But as you're showing them on astro.com or AstroSeek, whichever one you want to show them on, I'll go ahead and I'll get the Stellarium up so they could see exactly the astronomical difference at least.
Okay, am I going to show it on my screen then?
Yeah, you could show your map on your screen until I'm ready to take the
So you're ready to
the
take the
screen
lead.
back.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let me just go ahead and just go to AstroSeek. And I'm going to share my screen now. I'm going to put in my birth information too. So let's go to share screen, entire screen, share. Okay, I'm in screen sharing and under relocation rate. And then we're going to go to, astrocartography, astromap. Okay, so my birthday is January 25th, 1989. I am an Aquarius, and a millennial. And I was born at 11:23 p.m. in Denver, Colorado. And I'm going to go ahead and just, let's just show the difference with just Pluto. How's that sound?
Okay.
Single planet. You know what? No, I'll just do all planets because by default, it's just easier to get that way. Okay, here we go with this monstrosity. So, I don't know how close you can see it. I'll try to zoom in with pinch and zoom on my desktop here. As you can see, they have the Pluto line, okay, and this is the, oh God, it's horrible. The Pluto descendant. God, here we go. Okay, so they have the Pluto line going right over Miami. As you can see, it's this big dot with Miami and the latitude, longitudes right here. And that, and the telltale sign that this is zodiacal is that they all meet in the center like this instead of crossing over unevenly. That's how you know it's in mundo. So this is zodiacal, and it even says right here zodiacal projection. They don't have a setting for in mundo, so that's another interesting note for that. But there's a huge difference between being in Miami and Key West. And in my life, I can definitely tell you, I love Miami. Miami is a very beautiful place. It's one of my favorite places to be. I have a lot of fun there. But when I went into Key West, I nearly brushed death and I lost total control and power of my situation there. I was stranded alone and I had to pay a lot of money to get back to Miami to get somebody to drive me because I missed a bus. It was terrible. And so being in Miami, I was safe. When I finally got back to Miami from that horrible experience in Key West, I was like kissing the ground from just feeling like, oh, I'm at my hotel. I'm somewhere where I know I'm at. I'm safe. But being in Key West was awful. I was taken into the middle of nowhere in these islands. And that's how I know that this line is incorrect for me. As the closer as I could possibly get to this line, okay, it got horrible. And so here you can see Key West is pretty much as humanly close as possible to being there, unless you're in the middle of wherever that is. And it connects to Florida from this big long bridge. So you can only imagine from getting from Miami to there, it took about a 4.5-hour bus ride. Okay, and they call it the Miami bus. And it's for tourists who are like, oh, you're in Miami? Well, you can spend a whole day going out into Key West and doing some fun sports, which at the time I thought, hey, that sounds great. Like, long story short, I went to Miami for a vacation in 2019, and I was supposed to go to Freeport, Bahamas. I had a cruise scheduled, but they had to cancel it because there were some hurricanes that had happened and they weren't able to get the power back. And it was a very last minute thing. So I had to get a refund and book another hotel. My plane wasn't going to leave for another 7 days. So I had to book another hotel in Miami because the one I was staying at, I'd initially planned at staying at this like kind of upscale hotel for a few nights and then like going on this cruise. And instead I had to like go stay at a Ramada Inn for the remainder of my time. So I figured, well, if I want to be staying in Miami, I don't want to be just hanging out in Miami Beach the whole time, which by the way was very fun. But I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to go to this touristy thing, maybe I should go to Key West and do this day-long trip and go do a sport activity. When I like to, go out to these tropical areas, I like to go do sports, either meet the dolphins or in this case, I went parasailing. So I went and took the Miami bus all the way. And I got there at like 6 in the morning to take the Miami bus to show up in the Florida Keys at about 10 or 11 in the morning and they dropped us off from the bus here in Key West, and they gave us a map and said, just be back here by 4. So I was reading this map and I was like, where are we even at? It doesn't show you on the map even where you're at in the little map that they give you. So I had no clue where I was at to begin with. I kind of trusted that I would be able to navigate my way back. And so I took I went and did my parasailing excursion. And after that, there was a lot of time to kill. And by the way, the parasailing is an interesting sport because when you parasail, at least in the Florida Keys, you're basically holding on to these, you're like at least 100 feet in the air being dragged by a boat, and you're holding yourself up with your own 2 hands in this little seat, and you don't have anything you're sitting on. You're literally just hanging your feet over this little rod, and you're holding yourself up with these 2 straps. And if you get tired and let yourself go, guess who's going to fall into the ocean? And so that was a very adventurous thing for me, but that wasn't the scary part. The scary part was at that point getting in here and spending my day in Key West. I didn't like the people. The people were very nasty and very kind of rude, and I couldn't socialize with anybody. There was no one to hang out with or make any friends. I tried making, some acquaintances down there in my day there, and it was just very closed off and impersonable. So I ended up, let's see if I can just pull it up here. I ended up getting, I decided, okay, well, it's a hot tropical day. What else do you do on vacation but drink? And so I decided to go to this place called Hog's Breath Saloon here in Key West. And so I decided to drink there and spend some time. Hopefully I could just, kill an afternoon and hang out with some food or whatever. And I just didn't really like the food there. The food was like all deep fried French fries, and it just wasn't very like classy like I was getting in Miami. I'm kind of finicky about my food. So if I view this in Google Maps, we can look at the Hog's Breath Saloon here in 3D. And I was literally sitting right here in front of this register, kind of just by myself. And it's a very hot tropical day, but I will say that when the reason why I came here was, okay, I want to show you something really cool. I saw this on my way in, and I thought this was made for me. Look at it. It says Joey. People had wrote their names into the concrete a long time ago. And so I thought this was my place, because I kind of take things for omens and symbols anyway. So I'm like, it says Joey. So this has to be for me. And you kind of can't make that up for how close it is to the Pluto line. Little did I know that this was the beginning of how my day was going to go. I ended up being very dehydrated. I spent like $600 on a stupid little ring that somebody sold me onto while I was there at the little shops. And they're like, it's a dinosaur fossil ring, I'll cut you a discount. I thought I was stupid enough to buy it. So I spent $600 just there. That's a lot of money to just spend on something pretty frivolous on a ring. And in hindsight, it's 2020. I didn't know any better. I was on vacation, so I figured, whatever. But as the day went on, I got lost, and I couldn't find anywhere where I could just get bottles of water that was in this area where I basically just got dropped off and didn't know where I was at. I was pretty lost, basically. And if we go back to CosmoMaps, I had no idea that I got drug out probably from over here in this area to over here in this island, for where they had us walk us to where we were parasailing. So I was stuck here in this area thinking it was close to the bus stop. I had no clue. I was wandering. I was asking everybody around. I couldn't even ask for directions to get back to the Miami bus. I had asked everybody, where's the Miami bus? And nobody could tell me where it was at. So by the end of the day, I had missed the bus, and then my phone died. And I was stranded. Long story short, I ended up paying like a total stranger $500 to drive me back to Miami. And he brought me into the middle of a Starbucks along the way here to like collect payment, to make sure that he got paid. the $500 before taking me all the way back to Miami. And I finally got a drink of water once we were able to get to a gas station, which was way out here in Key West. So that's how I know that as I got further away from it and got back to Miami, I was able to finally enjoy the rest of my vacation. I was a little traumatized. I was a little scared. I definitely felt powerless and helpless. And it was a very scary situation to be in, to be that lost. And I was afraid that I was going to max out my credit cards and not be able to eat or get back home if I had to book a hotel or spend any more expenses than I already had spent there just to get back. If it was going to cost that much, I already spent money to get there. It was just insane, the experience, and I would never go back to Key West just because of how close it is to that Pluto line. So Cindy, if you're ready to take over,
Okay.
I will stop sharing.
Sure.
Okay.
And someone says, wow, which Pluto line was it again? I think it was your ascendant, right?
Yeah, it's see, they have it marked here. That's another bug with AstroSeek, is that like they have this one marked as descendant, but it should be the ascendant. And on other charts, like I don't know if you can
you
see
take your
here.
show them share your screen again to show her that?
Oh, okay. Sorry, I forgot I stopped sharing my
That's all
screen.
right. Good question.
Entire screen. So one of the weird things about this is that like they show no sun ascendant line. Look, it says sun descendant here, and then all the way connecting to the opposite end, it says sun descendant here. They have no way of showing you that the opposite side of the arc sign, okay, should be the sun ascendant line. So here it says Pluto descendant, but right here, okay, where it merges, this when it starts going up, okay, on the arc sign, it should be the sun Pluto ascendant. So
And
that's
the
why
arc sign is where the meridian crosses.
Yeah, so you see how it curves? So going one direction is going to be an ascendant line, and then the opposite version of that is going to be the descendant line. So I will demonstrate that in my software again. I'll just show you here. So you can see it says Pluto ascendant, and so when you click this on this side of it, it's going to say, oh, this is going to say Pluto ascendant. I'm just going to touch it because it's easier for me to touch. And then on the opposite side, going the opposite direction, that's going to be Pluto descendant. So that's one of the weird things to navigate AstroSeek, is that it doesn't explicitly show you what side is ascendant, descendant. You kind of just have to assume. But here you can at least touch and figure that out. So I'll stop sharing my screen if that answers your question.
And I'll share my screen. And so I'm on Joseph's chart on astroseek.com. And of course, this thing has to get in my way. No matter what I do, I'm just so clumsy with Zoom. No matter how much I practice. So, all right. So here is his Pluto ascendant line. And as you see, it goes right over Miami. If we look at the corner, it does say elliptic zodiacal projection method. So they are at least letting you know that they're not using the Inmundo method. One way, by the way, just to like, if you want to eyeball it, their Zoom is just, I mean, they don't really have it. So let me just show you really quick. So you see these areas, the vortices in the chart. So it looks like it meets all within a central location and shoots out like the spoke of a wheel. But because not all the planets are on the same plane, that's actually not what happens. It looks a lot more like, this is Joseph's chart. So I'm going to zoom out to show you. See how his vortices over here, and then, you know, the southern hemisphere, they don't meet all at one point. So that tells you, just eyeballing it, if you didn't know if you're using zodiacal or not. Sorry, I should be using your CosmoMaps instead. And then that goes to show you that AstroloGeeks uses Inmundo as well. But you could see here in Joseph's chart, they don't come and meet all at one point like the spokes of a wheel. So I'm going to go back to Joseph's chart over here, where he has his Pluto ascendant line. And I'm going to, here we go. I mean, this is, I can't pinch. Like if I do, it pinches like the whole screen. It doesn't actually do it with the map. So I'm going to have to like zoom, drag. You guys, I've done this a lot just for my personal travel, and it does kind of exasperate me. That's why if I sound like I'm like that, I'm not adding it in. I really do get like, oh, I have to do this again. Okay, so he was here in Key West and his Pluto line is out there, but that's fine because it's in Mundo. In AstroloGeeks, let me get the zoom. That's the most you could get with this map is 300. And then I will just like make the page bigger. And the resolution, as you could see, is just not clear at all. And it's very pixelated with the lines even. The other thing you have to keep in mind, by the way, is that because they're drawing this on like a drawn map, a Mercator map, not an actual live map, like they do on OpenStreets or Google, that also, you know, adds to less accuracy. And it also, like, even if we're just looking at the sun line, which is the ecliptic, you can see that the sun line could move even like up to 50 miles. I think my sun line moved 51 miles if I compared AstroloGeeks to Joseph software. And I think it was something like 30 miles if I compared AstroloGeeks to AstroloGeeks. That's a lot of miles, by the way, especially if you want to travel for your solar return. But in the zodiacal, according to his chart, it puts his Pluto ascendant over Miami. Now, if we're looking at his CosmoMaps, it does not put it over Miami. And it really isn't over Miami because when Joseph was born, he had Pluto in the first house. So what happens is that if it's in the first house, this is the horizon. We don't see what's in the first house. It's not until it gets to the 12th house that you're able to see the planets, the 12th through the 7th house, above the horizon. Now, zodiacally, that might look like one thing because they're not taking planetary latitudes into consideration when they're drawing it. It's kind of like, for lack of a better description, it's 2D. But here we could see the moon over here, right, in his chart. So really, we're not supposed to see Pluto, right? And that's the same according to AstroloGeeks. We're supposed to see Pluto over there. But if I'm using Stellarium is the astronomy software. So this is at the date and time that Joseph was born. And I don't know if you could see it, but this is the horizon. I'll take away the grids so that, I mean, he was born late at night, so it's midnight, obviously, right? So I'll put the equatorial grid back on. Sorry, I meant to put the other one, the azimuthal grid back on. If I don't want to move this because it's taking up so much CPU that it's going to drag, but we could see the horizon. And if you see, it's like, it goes from 15 to 10 to 5, and we can't see Pluto. We could see the moon because the moon was in the 12th house. Where is Pluto? Pluto is going to be somewhere over here below the horizon. So I'm going to remove the horizon. I'm going to remove the land so you could see it. And there you go. It's right where, you know, this little red mark is pulsating open and out, 0 degrees, the azimuthal horizon. And because of that, he can't see Pluto in the sky, right? He wouldn't have been able to see it even when he was in Miami. Now, even if I tried to relocate this chart to Miami, so let me get rid of this one, otherwise it stays up. Okay, so Miami. Okay, the sky changed in the background. I don't know if you guys noticed that. And let me put the land back up here. So according zodiacally, and that's, and let me get to your CosmoMaps. If we relocated Joseph's chart to the new location in Miami, yes, it would start to put Pluto above the horizon. However, we're doing these CosmoMaps according to his natal chart. So because of that, it would have moved, this is more accurate. It would have moved Pluto over west below the horizon where he can't see it, because, as the earth moves from east to west, then we'll finally be able to see it. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but that was my part that I wanted to show you, at least with, when it comes to, location and how we're able to test that using astronomy software. Let me go back to Denver. There we go. So as you see, it's Pluto again is below the horizon where it's supposed to be. And that also makes sense.
West, if you show them Key West, it'll show Pluto below the horizon.
Yeah, let me go to Key West then. I don't know if they'll have Key West in this. They try to be politically correct. If you notice, it says Denver, North America. They don't want to show countries. So there we go. Lucky us. It's a popular place. So, and I will draw. Let's see if I can remove the atmosphere. No, that makes it even darker. So the word looking east, if we're looking east, it puts Pluto right above the horizon there. Does that make sense to you guys?
Oh, and I think if you subtract an hour or two for time zone offset, you might want to subtract
That's right.
2 hours. That's what we had to do.
Okay.
Because the time has to be
okay.
offset. Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
So if you use the same
even if
exact
we're
time,
going-
23:23.
Yeah.
To relocate, we're using the exact same time as the birth information, but just in a different location.
Sorry, guys.
So that
I'm
puts
kind of nervous.
Pluto below the horizon.
Yes. Pluto is going to be significantly below the horizon here. That's right. Sorry, guys. I should have shown that to you at the beginning. But yeah, that in the Key West location, as you see, it says Key West over here. The horizon is at the 0 mark over here. It is below the horizon, and we are looking at the time. We are looking at the correct time. That is closer to Joseph's birth time over here.
Yeah, and show them Key West or Miami one more time, because we didn't do the time change there.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Sorry, guys. I'm running on like 5 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
I was up late last night fixing up this calculation.
Get this out of the way. Out of the way. And there, it's further away from the horizon. I think it was.
Yeah, I think they had it on the horizon. Let's see your settings again. Is it Miami?
It is Earth, Miami. Oh, I know what it is. We have to change the time as well again. The time goes over here. I have to go an hour ahead.
Oh, it's changing the day. That's part of the problem too. It keeps changing the day on you.
Let me get the date back.
And then 23:23.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so 23:23. And let me search for Pluto again. Pluto. It puts it below the horizon there. I think we have to put the clock an hour ahead.
So we've got a question from Amina. I'm going to read it real quick.
Sure. So we'll put it on to the 26th because it's past midnight, which makes a lot of sense.
So
And
Amina's got a pretty good question here. She goes, just a general astro question I've always had. I don't know if you can answer it, but I've always wondered why planets in the first house of visibility, quote unquote, are actually below the horizon, not so visible, while planets in the 12th are actually above the horizon and visible, albeit 12th house planets being hidden. Or am I mixing stuff up here? Did anyone else ever think about this?
yeah, it used to bother the heck out of me, Amina. I used to ask that all the time. Why do you call the 12th house the house of the hidden when that's when the planets are above the horizon? And that's because as they're coming up around the horizon, we have things in the way like hills or mountains or buildings or trees, which hides the view of the planets coming up, which is why it's called the house of the hidden. I hope that answers your question.
So yeah, if you want to go out of Stellarium and exit it now, I think we're good there. We can just show with the relocation charts just where it puts Pluto. If you click on AstroSeek, and click the Miami relocation and then click a Key West relocation, which is like down bottom to the left, we can see the difference in the two charts. Yeah. So if you click Miami and then do another one for where Key West would be.
Okay. Let me just allow the pop-up here to show the relocated chart, you mean?
Yeah. So look how they have Pluto right on the ascendant here in the relocation for Miami. It's exactly conjunct the ascendant.
Okay. And then we'll
go to
Key West.
Yeah, and then you go to Key West and
geez, their maps are so bad. It's
yeah,
roughly over here, I think, right? It's about that. Exactly. I mean, that's why I just don't use it. Yeah, it puts it
a degree below.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because it's slightly below the horizon, the differences are going to be kind of like notable. And I think that it depends on where exactly Key West is. It's hard to click on that map, but I do know that in the Key West area, it goes about 1 to 2 degrees below the horizon, with having Pluto there, which coincides with what Stellarium showed us. So yeah, you can see it's like above Havana. It's just awful. So what we can see is that Pluto should be below the horizon on the ascendant. I think that I don't know if that has anything to do with the zodiacal method, but it's just from experience and from what I was physically at, Miami was roses compared to Key West for me, and I was traumatized from the experience, and would never go back. I mean, I spent a lot of money. I spent at least like $1,100 just on a ring and on a ride back from Key West, and that's not including everything else I spent when I was down there. So being closer to the Pluto line versus being further away from it, it was a visible, noticeable, memorable experience. One that I wouldn't say is good for me. Maybe other people are going to have better Pluto line experiences, but for me, that was scary. I have a Pluto in Scorpio, so that's getting lost. That's the unknown. That's having loss of power. That's, in whole signs, that's my second whole sign house. That's money and finances and increasing my debts. As soon as I got to Miami, I was able to call my former employer at the time, and I was able to, yeah. By the way, also in Key West, there's a huge cemetery there that I ended up walking across. There's a huge cemetery there that it was like a memorabilia type thing for like colonialism. But when I got back to Miami, my former boss was like, "Oh my God," he was like scared for me to not be able to get back out of Florida. So he sent me $500 back to cover up that trip, that trip expense. So that it's like as soon as I got in Miami, I got some funds back. But when I was closer to the Pluto line, I was being charged up the wazoo. So that's just some of the more notable things about being closer to Key West and why zodiacal just does not really work.
And Pluto if you keep in mind, it's one of the things that rules is money. And because there's power plays involved, things would be more expensive specifically for you. I could give you an example on my Pluto line. I had my Pluto IC in the Kansas City area, in Kansas City, Missouri. And I remember I took my 2 cats over to the vet to get checked out. And I remember there was a sign right behind the receptionist desk, and it was like, I don't know, it was $150 per cat in order to do the exam, and like another $10 to clip their nails. So between our 2 cats, I was expecting it to be, $350, no more than $400. And they wanted to charge me closer to $800. I was like, why? And their answer to me was, well, if you were in New York City, that's how much it would cost. Well, this is not New York City. I mean, this is like so far away from New York City. And I would get, vets from the Cornell School of Medicine, not the State School of Medicine in Kansas. And it wasn't even really Kansas City. It was a northern suburb inside of the vet's office was in a plaza. It was like not high end at all. And, because it's Pluto, they're threatening to even go ahead and call the police because I wasn't going to pay. And I was like, yes, I insist, please call the police. Let them know that you have a client here that absolutely refuses to pay New York City prices in a northern Kansas City suburb. And, I guess she realized like what that sounded like. And she really reluctantly and angrily gave me the prices that were listed for everybody else. And, she told me never to come back, like I'd ever want to go back there again anyway. I was just really happy that she didn't have the idea to hold my cats hostage until I paid up or else, So those are like typical Pluto things that happen, is like all of a sudden you find that Pluto goes into your pockets and into your bank accounts and your taxes, and it is like a vacuum for money against you. Watch your Pluto lines. I remember before Joseph went to Key West, I'm like, I don't know, Joseph. And the only thing I told him, I said, look, it's a short trip. It's good for you to experience it. The only thing is that you might not really, you're a single young man. It's going to be really good for sex. But I don't know what that was for him. I did not follow up, but, I would say, the sexual experiences that you would get on a Pluto line are the transformational ones. So things like losing your virginity rather than having a conquest, for instance, or if you're trying your first ray into something that you've never done sexually before, and how transformational it is. On the most extreme of the Pluto experiences with sex, now you have to think Pluto is about power plays and stuff too. It's about ruling over you. So, and if you think about sex and you mix those two together, that means rape. I could tell you, I never once got anywhere close to being raped or feeling like I was going to get raped on my Pluto line. But, that's one of the things to consider.
Another thing about Pluto lines and sex is that, it's could be risky for sexually transmitted diseases as well, since those are microscopic and parasitic. And running into things like prostitution as well, and that again involves money for the transaction of sex, so that would explain some Pluto line themes as well. So just to be wary of the Pluto line. At least we're traumatized by the Pluto line. I wouldn't recommend purchasing a prostitute on a Pluto line, or not recommending you purchasing a prostitute ever, but I'm just saying, just don't do those Pluto activities. Don't do those things. Yeah, that could be bad.
I just noticed I had Chiron on EMC where you have Pluto going. That's really interesting. Joseph and I, like, we play around, and sometimes we find things like over, where was it? Over California, where you had your Saturn. I had my my Mars MC, so close to Silicon Valley.
Oh yeah. Go ahead and
There's no
search
coincidence when things like
Googleplex
that
there.
happen.
Yeah, show them where Googleplex is
Uh,
in your chart.
Okay. Okay, and then I dropped the man there. I see, so I'm, this doesn't look so attractive to me. I mean, it
It's your
doesn't look
Mars line,
ugly
yeah.
either. Yeah,
That's
but it
pretty
is my
ugly.
Mars line, and Mars lines are pretty rough. I mean, did I even get the right place? Let me,
You're close
that
to
was,
it.
yeah.
But I don't know
I
if you
mean,
saw, did you see
oh,
all the red there? The guy with the red helmet, the red cars. Like,
that's true.
yeah.
Yes. Where did it put me inside of Google?
Natalie Naruns or Narons or something.
Let me see. Let me just go back to some regular street instead.
Maybe
I'm
when you
like
might want to
kind
zoom
of
in
not
closer.
selling.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
that's the
that's what I
Googleplex.
was thinking. Okay, so let me see if I could get him right. Oh, there we go, right there. This is, are we really? It says the Golden Gate Bridge here. What is going on?
It
I
must be
wonder if
pretty
it has
close to the
something to do.
Googleplex. I would just open up Googleplex in the Google Maps and just view it from there.
Right, and then I have to,
Yeah,
let's
it
see
looks
what
like it's in
happens if
that
I drop the
swamp.
yellow man. Okay, now it
That
just,
looks like the
oh, come on,
Googleplex.
guys. Let's see if I could get this straightened out a little bit. Yeah, this is the Googleplex. Okay. It's fighting with me. So there you go. It's giving me a hard time. When Joseph was doing this on my maps, I was just watching it through his thing. So I'm going to say it gives me a hard time. Of course, I have to take some credit for user clumsiness, but like you'll see things like red starting to shoot out more on your Mars lines, for instance.
Yeah, they have a lot more.
I don't know what
prominent
else you
red
wanted.
there.
Yeah. I'm not sure what else you wanted to talk about with my Google line over there. My Mars line over there.
Well, it's just that it's interesting that like both of our lines are close to Google and how they work because, our suns are square. My sun is ruled by Saturn, and I have a very strong Saturn in my chart. So it's just very interesting that like some of our lines are pretty close. As you can see, mine's more to the east and yours is more to the west, but the Googleplex is right in between us. I think that's really interesting.
Like a midpoint, almost exactly in between. I remember when you were showing me.
I think we can.
Oh, by the way, let me show them one of the things that we're working on. So here's, if you click on the Mars line and sorry guys with these clunky things I have here. Okay, so I'm just going to click on Stanford because it's pretty cool to have Stanford. And by the way, I feel really intimidated by Stanford University. Like, I was suggested that I apply there. I was like, what? With all the competition there? And that was like the first word that came out of my mouth, was competition. Like I felt like there was no way, but okay, click on the line and it says more info. Because we have an interpretation ready for it, I could click on the line and it opens up kind of like a light box, and you know that you're there because it says Mars on the midheaven. By the way, Joe made these graphics, and it talks about the line. It's at the very top of the sky. It's at high noon, right? You'll be able to have the energy to climb high, more success. And it's kind of funny because if we're using this astrology powered by Google, Joseph, who was the pushing force here, me or you?
You were the one that was driven. You're the one that sat there, and for about a year, it was since 2021 spring, she was literally asking every astrologer. She had asked the guys that do that are like the heads of astrocartography. She was asking people just everybody. She was, and we got roundabout answers for everything. She was diligent, and that's a good word for Mars, is diligent at the hunt for getting an answer for how to produce a calculation on this. No human was able to give us information. It was like this weird thing of luck. It was like this, I wouldn't even call it luck. It was a moment of fate where she picked up a book as part of her normal thing with just collecting
Diligent
information
research.
and she found the book, and this book had instructions on how to calculate, and it's an old book from the 70s. So we had to take that and kind of run with it. It was like translating it in math. I don't know if you've ever been in math class, but you get that a train's going at 40 miles, and what I mean, it was like one of those types of things. Where it was kind of like written out, and you had to kind of like try and translate that into mathematical terms. So it was kind of like that. It was kind of rough, and then they kind of had some calculations listed out, but it wasn't very direct and straightforward. So it took a lot of testing and calculating and running it through before me to finally be like, there we go. That's what he means, or that's what the book means. But that was the closest that we could get with it. Once she got the book, which was the key to us being able to reproduce these calculations, it was just kind of from there. But nobody in the past 2 years gave her a direct answer as to how to perform this calculation. We had only one person that was willing to help, and that was about as close as we could get to it until we went and dug through this book.
And if I'm being more precise, a lot of people just said a straightforward no. So, it's kind of, at the time, it was like, it was, I don't want to say disappointing. That's even a little extreme, but it was just like, oh man, just like more work to do, more to search. Like, obviously it's out there. And when I even went to astronomers, like, as soon as they find out I'm using it for astrology, they're so afraid for their reputations. They're like, sorry, I can't help you with this. So it was a matter of like looking, searching. And when I finally found a formula, I showed it to Joseph, and I was like, can you make sense of this? And God, you went on for like, what was it, 7 or 11 hours of cracking the code, really, of figuring it out, and where I was testing it and looking at it and being like, that doesn't really look correct, and using coordinates to determine whether or not the line should have moved more to the west or more to the east. So we'll go over a little bit about that too, but let me show you a little bit more about remote activation. And Joseph, let me just see really quickly if there's any questions in the Facebook group. So
Okay.
Yeah, you're welcome, Feng Shui. Hello, Antonella. Hello, Ezekiel. How would you treat Pluto MC in astrocartography? Stay far away. But it's, yeah. Pluto MC is the least worst of all the angular lines in Pluto. I would say always, for any Pluto line, definitely watch all of your taxes. And if you're playing with Pluto on the MC, make sure that you have a role where you are the authority, and watch yourself. One of your jobs, if you get a job on your Pluto MC, is going to be to keep your job. Do you ever hear of with the book, The Prince, the job of the prince is to stay the prince. And it's very much like that on the Pluto line. A lot of people are going to be fighting with you to try to take your job from behind your back, treacherous methods, backstabbing. Definitely watch your money, watch how your taxes are charged. Really, if you have to pay $500 or $1,000 for an accountant to do the reviews, a really good accountant is probably $2,500. That's gonna, if you move from a different state where they're actually going to be looking at the laws of that state and providing you with good explanations and citations for, what the cost would be, because you might find some surprises if you don't do that. My husband and I, before we moved to our Pluto lines, by the way, when we moved to Kansas City, and you could see it over here, I have my Pluto line. Mine is my Pluto IC. That was so close. And my husband's was his Pluto ascendant line. And we did get a really good taxman, and he covered just about everything, so we were prepared. But as we find out, sometimes the laws change, and sometimes little things sneak in here or there. He was looking at different state laws, but within the Kansas City boundaries, we got charged an extra 1% for city tax on any transaction I did there. So you might have also changes in your career as well too. So I hope that answers your question in summary. One last thing I want to say about Pluto lines, like here, I click on it and we don't have that learn more like we did for the Mars lines. And that's because I'm currently adding in delineations. So slowly but surely, you're going to see more and more. And I just wanted to show you when I was, okay, so let me actually even zoom out more, just so showing you more about how remote activation works. Okay, so I lived in this little island, Dominica, and one of the things we're going to actually do more, and sorry, I'm going to just show them on astro.com, Joseph, just because they have the feature yet up there. And it's kind of interesting to show how, again, the lines are off a little bit. So I lived in this island called Dominica, and honestly, it is within orb of my Mercury MC in Zenith. That means it was, if I'm, here in Antigua and Barbuda, that was like 90 degrees above my head. So this one, I think, draws an orb of 1 degree. I usually go by 2 degrees. So 88 degrees, that's the tight orb that I use. And Joseph, can you check the questions? I see someone's putting some questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'm checking it right now. When you're done,
okay,
I'll go
thanks.
ahead and bring them up.
Oh, thanks. So it was really good because I moved there from my Pluto line. And by the way, my husband and I made this selection on purpose because my husband was an attorney and he wanted to become a physician. And it's kind of funny because we moved to, it was his Pluto line. Let me see if I could get, let me pull up his chart on, silly Cindy. Thank you guys for being very patient with me on this. It was his Pluto ascendant line, and it was my Pluto IC, and I don't think that is his, sorry. Okay, haste makes waste, as they say. Okay, so okay, and we had an exact address for my husband's birth, which is going to matter in the future when we do local space line. So, it makes the difference of putting the center point on wherever Google decides is the center of a place versus whatever astrology decides is the center of a city, which is often the city hall or the court, versus where you were actually really truly born. And that little bit of a difference makes a huge difference when it comes out to local space. We don't have local space here so far, but okay, so these this is Kenneth. And yeah, look at that. His Pluto ascendant goes right over Kansas City. So, you kind of think maybe that's okay for, and, some of the other astrologers, the old school astrologers were like, oh, Pluto transformation. Yeah, you're going to become, you were once a lawyer and you're going to become a physician, and that's transformation, and learning is medical school, blah, blah, blah. And the other thing too, is that we also had a really, really good astrologer that I knew that was so good with precision, but he used the diacal. And when we used the diacal, that moved his line like further away from Kansas City. And we were asking him, are you sure? Because in the Inmundo method, this is before I started like really just taking this on seriously, taking the bull by the horns. Are you sure? Because according to the Inmundo method, it puts it puts Pluto a lot closer to Kansas City. And he's like, oh, don't worry about it. And my husband's a native New Yorker. And this guy said he was a New Yorker too. He went to Columbia University, blah, blah, blah. And as it turns out, lies, just like Pluto does, they lie. The guy turns out to be from somewhere here in East Kansas. And he was like, oh yeah, but I consider New York to be my home. That's why I call myself a New Yorker. But he really didn't want us to think anything poorly of where he was from. I mean, wow, talk about introducing bias in a chart reading. You should never do this, people. It's just, I mean, it really, it traumatized us. But anyway, so here we are on his Pluto line. And, you know, when we zoom out, and we looked at Dominica, it was safe enough. And I think when we used the parents and everything, there was no Pluto influence. Like there was another medical school in the Caribbean. So imagine he was in medical school in Kansas City. We get halfway through and they're so like personal about making sure that they're going to punish him just because he's different. He's a New Yorker, he's an attorney, he's older. And they felt like, why are you in medical school? You shouldn't be here because you already have a law degree and that's it. You have your degrees, your professional degree. Why do you need to hog degrees? And you're an old man, you must, because we don't have children. So everybody's like, oh, you're just trying to fill the void in your life. Like just mean things you shouldn't say to people. And, you know, just ridiculous. And at that time too, because I had Pluto on, you know, very, very close to my eye seat, I was a physician and over there, my life totally transformed. I mean, like nobody was hiring me. Nobody was even interviewing me. And when I got a little bit more assertive and started writing to the hiring directors or supervisors or, you know, whatever they are, they would actually straightforward tell me, oh, it's because you're not from here and we want to hire someone from the community. Even though I was more qualified and I had exactly what they needed, they were just, you know, they'd rather hire, you know, Jim Bob's cousin's neighbor who maybe, you know, used to work in the firehouse because they know him. So therefore he could do a better job, even though I actually had the degrees, the qualifications, the experience, everything that you needed, but whatever. So my husband was like, why don't you, you know, I was already volunteering at like an astrology organization. By the way, that's a whole other Pluto story I'm going to get into on another day. But long story short, they put my name on documents that they knew were of false information that they submitted to the Secretary of State and to the IRS. So remember taxes. And once I found out, I was like, well, you guys have to take my name off and everything. But I just always wanted to get away from this line. My husband wanted to get away from this line. So he withdrew from medical school. Imagine you're halfway through and you're just like, this is so freaking terrible. We're going to leave. We don't care. You know, if this means the end of him pursuing his career, his new career path, because, you know, sometimes it's kind of like you have to cut your losses, right? You have to be smart with your decisions. But my husband thought he could restart medical school again. And we looked in the Caribbean and, you know, it's right under, for him, let me see, this must be his, because
It looks like Mercury.
Okay, yeah, because I'm not used to, we changed the colors too of the line. So this is mine, this is Mercury. I was so close to my Mercury midheaven. And my local space line originating from my birth also goes through there because of course it would. Your local space lines always go and cross your zenith. So communication was great. And I had to hide the fact that we left because I had an ongoing active lawsuit against people. And one of the things that they hated about me was that I wasn't from there. And how dare you name your business Kansas City when you're located in the Kansas City area, but you're not from here. So we're going to make sure that you get punished for that. So I couldn't they were doing an active campaign of defamation, even though I was, we had an active lawsuit against them. And there was a cease and desist, but I went over here and I had to change my business from seeing people in person to doing only telephone, which was great under a Mercury line. And I was able to even, I mean, imagine the good luck. I was contacted by CBS News, and they were like, can you do a news segment on, you know, another Mercury theme, zodiac signs and exercise? And I said, sure, I'm out of town. Can, you know, I mean, can you give me a few days to get back to town? They were like, yeah, sure. You know, you could come next week. So it's funny because it was like all these Mercury themes started coming up. And, you know, while I was there, now, if you see, I have a Jupiter line in America going over Dallas, going right next to Austin. And one of the things that Mercury is good for is, you know, an immediate networking in your neighborhood. There was a lot of gossip around me. Everybody would come and tell me all the gossip. I'd get all this information and secret stuff about all our neighbors. And we were like an expatriate community. And what happened is remote activation. I met a girl from my Jupiter line, and she knew I had one heck of a hard time getting my cats over to Dominica. So I tried like 3 different times, and every single time there was always some kind of Pluto undermining, almost like Pluto didn't want to let go of me yet. So my friend, you know, I made friends with her, and she said, is there any way you could get your cats to Austin, Texas? I'll meet you in Austin and I'll fly back with you with your cats to Dominica. That is such a Jupiterian thing to do. What a grand, generous gesture to do. And she wouldn't even let me pay for her plane ticket. I got to stay in her brother-in-law's house. Like, we didn't even have to pay, you know, any rent or any hotel fees. She let me use her car while we were there. You know, we drove to San Antonio a couple of times because I decided to get a barrel packed and move, because of course on my Pluto line, they were like, oh, the Commonwealth of Dominica doesn't exist. And we're like, just because you're too lazy to look it up on your computer, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It does. So we can never get anything shipped from there. And Mercury is about trickery, a little bit about theft. The first week or two I was there, we had, you know, there was like a laundry service that everybody in my neighborhood was using, and someone stole all of my clothes. So I was using my husband's clothes. It was terrible. I was dressed like a man, and I'm not a man. Like I like being a female. So that was like the duality with Mercury and stuff, of course. So I you know, I had to go to Missouri first, to Kansas City first, to get my cats. So in doing this, I was planning, like, I really just want to get to my Jupiter line in the fastest way possible, because I want to get away from the immersion of Pluto and wash myself from that Pluto energy and really bathe myself under Jupiter. So they were giving me like weird paths that would like take me down this way, and that was just too long. Like the shortest point between 2 lines is, or 2 points is a straight line, right? So I mapped it out on Google. And when I went to do that on astro.com, you know, it's a lot of work, because here I am like zoom, and, you know, you know, it's actually a few miles off as a matter of fact. You know, this goes over, you know, kind of closer to Junction City. And if we're looking at it on astro.com, I think it took us a little bit closer to, it moved the line, I think, a little bit more west. But, you know, here I am zooming in, looking for, you know, where on the highway can I get off? Where is the exit? And it's a lot of work, because then, you know, I'm zooming in, I'm trying to find out the exit and trying to look at like, where's, okay, Chandler Road. Okay, let me go to Google Maps and look for where Chandler Road is. And, you know, I had all these screenshots that I put on my phone so that I knew, and then I try to like program it into my Google, you know, the Google Maps as I was driving, because I was using Android Auto. And, you know, it took me off on the wrong spot. But anyway, it was close enough. I mean, good enough. I think sometimes intention really works a lot. So I got off there, and as I was driving, like as I was getting closer, I was already feeling happier. So what I do is I go and I take photos. So, you know, look at this big expanse, and it's very lush. And, you know, that's kind of like a Jupiterian thing. I was feeling, look, this place, it's beautiful to look at, right? But it's not really a happening place. I mean, it's country, right? So, not the place I really ever want to live. I have planets on my angles in my chart, and they're, you know, key planets and stuff. So that makes me like a big city girl. But, you know, I took some photos just to mark the moment. I think I even took a video at some point because I was just like, woohoo, I'm here on my Jupiter line. Yeah, I think like over here, I don't know if you could hear, but sorry for the bad video, but I think my Jupiter, there we go. So it's nice because when I had to get back to Kansas City again, I would often remote view the areas. It was interesting because this area just had like a scenic view stop that you could spot. The winds, I remember, were really super choppy. I didn't care. I was just happy to be away from my Pluto line. But we could a lot more easily plan those routes now just by taking our little man and dropping him here on the map. And as you see, it kind of looks similar to where, I mean, it's not the exact spot that I took a photo of. Like I said, it was a few miles off. I like that you could see the dust the trail of dust that the car left behind. But through there, I was more easily able to just plan, you know, I'm more easily able going forward to plan my trip if I ever want to go anywhere. And Joseph, do you want to talk about the plans that we have, or like
Yes,
how else we
actually,
could use this type?
there's a lot of things actually we need to address. So first thing, let's go to a chat question we have in the Zoom. So it's actually not really a question, but just Amina shared her Pluto story. So she says that she has been to her Pluto midheaven. She has a Scorpio midheaven, and she was studying psychology there. And she said that the studies went really well. She didn't like the places in general, and she didn't have a good time, but it was super expensive. It was Zurich in Switzerland. So she says she lost a lot of money, didn't find any friends, but for her career terms with psychology, it went well. And her Pluto was in the 9th house, loosely conjunct the midheaven. So despite it having some sort of auspicious event, it still manifested, you know, that Pluto line still manifested kind of ugly for her, and still was like a vacuum for cash, like we had said earlier. So you can see.
And Amina, this was her 9th house, right? So
Yeah.
it's 9th house, it's learning, which is really good. If we're putting it in the cadent house, it's not going to make, the planet is a little weaker in the cadent house than it is the angular house. 9th house for learning, perfect. But if you were going there for career, unless it was like a university, it would be a lot more traumatic. But sorry for interrupting, go ahead.
Oh, you're good, you're good. Actually, if you don't mind stopping to share your screen so I can share mine, I think what we need to do is we need to go on to some remote activation stuff. So that way we can demonstrate how this is gonna really work out for people. So I'm gonna go ahead and start sharing mine. And I'm gonna give some examples for remote activation here, okay? So let me start off with something here, okay? So I learned in my chart, for example, that there's some interesting places on planet Earth that we were going up and down my Mars line the other day, me and Cindy were, and I have a Mars in Taurus, okay? So for me, I'm on the keto diet. I can't eat certain things. I can't eat carbohydrates or sugars anymore because, you know, my Mars is in Taurus, and that's a detriment Mars. And so I will gain weight. And like, I was at 300 pounds back in like 2018, okay, believe it or not. And you can see on the Mars line, and this is like everywhere on the Mars line, it's either cemeteries because it's a 8th house Mars, or all the food restaurants that showed up on the Mars line were like these cheap restaurants, like it's a Krispy Kreme or Jack Pearl's Kitchen, chicken, KFC, Bala Bistro, and it was like this everywhere. No matter how south or how north we went, all the food was cheap, and we can show just how ugly this is. Let's see. Let's just go to, look, you see it's Wendy's and Taco Bell, all these decadent but also very bad for you foods. These cheap foods are on my Mars line, and it is like everywhere on my Mars line. It's horrible. So this is a good example of like how I know for a fact that like my Mars is not a good place to be at. Let's see if I can find something. Like, I've never been to a Debo's Wings and More. Let's go to Crystal. I've never even been here. Let's view it on Google Maps real quick. So you can see how my Mars line manifests with this cheap food, and this is actually the exact stuff I can't eat on the ketogenic diet. This is stuff that will knock me out of ketosis. It will make me fat as a pig. I will get easily addicted to it, and I will spiral out of my health. I actually have arthritis in my spine, so like, and it's caused by food like this. And sugars and stuff like that. And so this is just a theme here with, and look at how, there's all this red, by the way, with the Mars line. Like, it's always red when you see Mars energy, like just red everywhere.
Joseph, are you feeling a little sick just looking at this food? Because remote activation.
So disgusted. I hate myself.
Aw,
like,
don't do that.
Thinking about how I used to like, and don't get me wrong, I would down this stuff. Like no tomorrow, and be like, oh, this is good. Like, I'm sure for some people this looks fine, but for me, because I eat so clean and so healthy now, that like this kind of stuff is just not good for me. I don't know how other people can digest it, but I mean, I can remember how I felt when I would eat food like this, and it is not a very good feeling. My health has significantly improved. My blood pressure, my blood sugars, everything is under control since I've been eating clean. So, this is a telltale sign of like why I should not travel to my Mars line, and why I shouldn't eat on my Mars line, because I have a Mars in Taurus. So, this could easily suck me in and give me some really bad health. I mean, God, it looks terrible and cheap. So, I mean, that's how I feel. And you'll see it across like all across this line. And like all these things are with an orb, like Bala's Bistro, like, and I'm not saying bad things about some of these restaurants. I'm sure some of these are like decent mom and pop restaurants for some people, and that's like the best that they've got and like where they're at. But for me and my experience, my energy, I can feel it that I would not like being here. Another thing you can do to really get a feel for your line, like there's Memphis, Tennessee, for your lines, is if you're going to travel, like you can see, oh Lord, oh, this is terrible. God. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of stuff I'm not allowed to eat. This is pure sugar. This is really bad for you. This is highly processed. But I know a lot of people think it's really delicious, and I used to think it's really delicious, and it's not a good place for me to be at.
And Joseph, Amina is asking, is your Mars in the 2nd or 6th house?
I have an 8th house Mars, so
that's his relocated. Well, yeah.
Mars and Taurus in the 8th or 7th Placidus, but I go by whole signs. So, and as you can see, it's a very similar theme here. With the Mars line, all the food that is in following across that line. So let me go back out here. So, and I would find a lot of times too that like there'd be a lot of cemeteries along this line as well, and also on my Venus line, because Venus rules the 8th house. But at least the food there was delicious and beautiful. I'm going to show some examples of that too once I can see some cemeteries. You can see a lot of churches as well. But yeah, it's just like nothing but like really just bad for you food on these lines, and you can see a theme, right? Like, and by the way, this is the kind of stuff I grew up on. Like, this is what when we weren't wealthy growing up. So, this is kind of the stuff that like, my mom would be like, she didn't feel like cooking, so we would eat stuff like this. So it's not to down anybody. It's just that for me, I had to actually cut this food out in order to gain control of my health, because I was 300 pounds, I was pre-diabetic, I had arthritis in the spine, and I was in a walker. And in order to regain control of my life, this is during my Saturn return. In order to regain control of my life, I had to put food down like this and eat clean. So let's show a difference now. Let's show some examples here. I haven't been to my Mars lines, thank God. So I'm not really interested in going to them unless it's. I know my Mars line goes pretty close to Cindy up in Chicago, but in Chicago there's
I
more
know.
variety, so there's a higher chance of getting better food. But like you can see in the
I'm
deep
trying to
south, there's a.
convince Joe. Sorry, I'm trying to convince Joe to come visit me in Chicago. I'm like, it's a descendant line, right? You'll meet some guys out here, but he's like, no, thanks. And
Yeah,
now that I
and
don't push it because he's betrothed, but
yeah, I'm in a lovely relationship now. And I have to thank the fact that, I'm taking care of my life. Okay, so let's look at some other examples here. So this is my Venus line. Are we in Spain here? Where are we at? Yeah. So we get pretty close to the Venus lines here. I am a Libra rising, and my eighth and Venus rules my eighth house. So I was gonna, here a good way to see the differences between the lines, and this is how remote activation is going to be. I think this is a pharmacy. There is, we can say this is pretty close.
oh yeah.
There should be a resort, and there's different types of beaches. There's the South Beach, and then there's this more northern beach. I can't remember which beach I was looking at, but I do
There's the
know
Playa
that it
San
was.
Miguel.
I'm gonna assume it's down here by here, because that's where I was looking last time I saw it, and I was like, wow, look how gorgeous. So let's look at the beach here, Playa de San Miguel. You can see that the beach falls right on my line. And I immediately resonate with this kind of energy. You can see how it's just the beautiful. I love oceans. I've always loved oceans, and I find it interesting that my Neptune, Jupiter, and Venus lines all go across oceans in tropical, beautiful places. I mean, this feels serene and peaceful to me, and everyone looks just so like calm, and it's actually compared to Miami, it's significantly less busy, and I like that peaceful serenity feeling. Like you can see all the blues that are in here as well. So I think that's really interesting, is like just like how gorgeous this view is, like, and I'm already feeling like the serenity from it, very peaceful, beautiful energy from it. And if we go to look at restaurants that fall. Oh, go ahead.
By the way, what's really funny is I was looking at those pictures and I'm like, no, like I mean, again, it just doesn't look appealing. And it's my Saturn MC line. To me, it looked rocky and dreary. So you have to keep in mind how personal this remote activation is to you. That to me, it looks very pretty, but it looks very blocky. Look at all those block, and it's so planned and so restrictive in some ways. But you go ahead again. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just wanted to
let
people know if you see it.
Yeah, like, okay, so like for me, I'm feeling like, oh, I would travel here. This looks like a nice little place to travel to. It's beautiful. Look at all the blues. It's tropical. This is Spain. How wonderful is this? And I'll actually show someone else's chart, my boyfriend's chart, actually, so you can get another idea of how remote activation works. Okay, when you're in a relationship, it's so crazy how it works. But like, you can see that, like, okay, it's clearly got a different vibe to it, right? Being on the Venus line, and I think it shows the prices. It should show the prices somewhere on here. I don't know what the. Sometimes it shows prices, but look, it's a 5-star hotel. It's a holiday apartment rental. People got good things to say about it. So, I mean, it's also one person right there, but it's Spain. Let me go back to my Venus line. And so it's interesting that like my Venus line runs through Spain because my boyfriend's Venus line also runs through here. And then I was looking at, so my Jupiter line, okay, falls pretty close here to Rome. And I was looking down here, where the Jupiter line's on the, yeah, on the beach here again. And I've looked at it and I was like, okay, well, let's look at some places that are like right on it. So here's Paradise Suite. And right off the bat, you can see that on my Jupiter line, like, okay, not only is this a foreign place for me, but for me, I just, again, you can see these cool blues, and this is a very upscale looking kind of like hotel or like resort or stay. And it's only $81 for a night this weekend. So that's really affordable. And you know, some of them, this is like some of the lower range hotel rooms, but like private jacuzzi baths. Like, to me, these are the kind of amenities I look for. I like more upscale stuff, but it's very serene and very beautiful and very peaceful. And like, I'm already like being like, oh man, I want to go to Spain. Like, it looks affordable, it looks beautiful. I really resonate with it. The food looks really amazing too, which we'll get to. But you know, this resonates well with me in my chart because I love beautiful things. I'm a Venus rule person. And in my chart, I have Venus in a grand trine with Jupiter and the moon. So any of the moon lines, Jupiter lines, and Venus lines, I'm going to really resonate well with. And I'm going to find them beautiful and peaceful and clean looking. Like, here's the food. Like, here's the food on the Jupiter line. Okay. Even if these are carbohydrates, like, it's nowhere near the same level that you saw on my Mars line with just how like that was so generic. Like, just to me, that was just like, ugh, this is, if I'm going to eat bottom of the barrel food from a line, right, it should look like this. You know what I mean? If I'm going to have sugar and carbs, like, you know, it should, I feel like some fruit and maybe a whatever that is, a glazed Danish is, and some coffee, orange juice, right? But look how beautiful it is. Like, to me, this is beautiful. I don't know how you feel about it, Cindy, but I just love this.
I like it. Again, I see more of the architecture, more of the straight lines.
And then, I'm the straight lines, and and so I was looking at the Jupiter line, and I was like, okay, well, what else is here in Rome? You know what I mean? Like, I think Italy runs in my line. This is my chart, right? Yes. I think it should be pretty close to Italy. So there's some beautiful places I saw while looking in Italy, and I was like, wow, I had no idea that like I would resonate with something like this. Like, I had no clue that here's a restaurant here that's on my Jupiter line. And just look at how like presentable it is. And the food there is just so vastly different. It looks like people get married here. Let's take a look at the food here. Fried apple and a pork and gravy. So as far as being there physically, it tends to be more beautiful. They serve cheese. Like, this is something more along the lines of what I would eat. And you can see these blues, just more of a common theme across these particular lines. And this is Spain, so you know, and in Italy, so you know, the quality of food is going to be vastly different than here in America, you know. And to me, this is really romantic and beautiful. This is the kind of things I think about when I think of Jupiter and Taurus. I think of wine, I think of fruits and stuff like that. So this is the kind of stuff I would find on the Jupiter line. And let me see if I go back. There's some just amazing places I had saw here that were like right on the beach and stuff like that. And then there was the Neptune line. So I've been really, this is how you get a feel for like remote activation too, is just be like, you know, you can get really close to these lines and like see what would work out well for you. And it's like, it's almost like traveling in a way, you know what I mean? To like, if you're like, if I want to plan a trip, I'm going to plan it around one of these lines where like, okay, here, this is a seafood restaurant. Let's take a look at here. And again, you get a whole different vibe. Look how just more presentable and beautiful it is than my Mars line restaurants, right? Like, to me, I don't know if you guys like that. I think this is gorgeous and looks delicious. I don't know how you guys feel about sashimi or sushi or raw fish. I love it. I mean, I can eat fish roe. Like, I love it. So if this looks gross to you, this looks delicious to me. And it looks just absolutely beautiful. Like, I love the way it's presented. This is very cultural-esque. To me, this is really gorgeous, with all the colors and how clean it looks. Those are some prawns, some other types of shellfish with tomato and red onion. You can never go wrong with seafood like this. I love seafood, so for me, this is like amazing. My boyfriend does not like the kind of seafood I like. He thinks it's weird that I eat octopus. But you can see just the vast differences between the lines, and the way I feel about it, I love the presentation and the cleanliness and the culture that's behind this. It's a very Jupiter thing, is to really love the culture of something. So I would probably really greatly enjoy going to a place like this. Like, I can already taste it. You know what I mean? It makes me very, very hungry. And I'll give one more example on my chart before I show my boyfriend's chart real quick, because I wanted to kind of inform people, like, remote activation works even with like the partners that you're with, you know? So I have a Venus line and a moon midheaven line going through Japan. Now, mind you, I have a lot of lines going through Japan, and I'm a 90s kid. I'm a millennial. And I grew up with Sailor Moon as one of my favorite animes. I have the mug right in my hands. I'll stop sharing for a second. As you can see, like, I have my Sailor Moon mug right here. And this is a Japanese anime that I'm just absolutely in love with. Moon, and of course my moon midheaven goes right over Japan. So this is so interesting. That I have so much deep connection with Japan. I love Japan. I've been wanting to go travel there for like the whole time. I kind of like know a good amount of dialogue. I could navigate there. So it's just these little synchronicities that like I've been learning more and more by looking into these places. And it's really awesome that I can sit here and like go through these Venus lines and like, if I'm looking for hotels, and the closer they are or right on the line, the more I can see how apparent and obvious some of these things are. Like this one is in Iwate. So let's go ahead and open it up. And so here on my Venus line, okay, this is a little Japanese restaurant. And in Japan, this is actually a lot of food for a Japanese plate, but it might actually look big on picture, and it's actually like 2 little shrimps here. And so for me, this is like, this makes me hungry. This is what I would call like Japanese comfort food. You know what I mean? And it's in this little like shop, right off the street. And again, it's seafood for me. You know what I mean? It's seafood almost everywhere on my moon and Venus and Jupiter lines. And this one's nowhere near as beautiful as some of the other ones, but like you can see what the themes are like when you go to these lines. You can actually like see the differences between like, oh, well, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near my Pluto line or my Mars line. Pluto might be deceivingly beautiful, by the way, because I know I was very deceived going to Key West thinking, oh, this is going to be great. And it was actually quite horrible. So let's keep going, because I found that there was in some of these places here, I think it was Kaneganashi, let's see. It was right through, I think there was my Neptune line too. So if I go to the Neptune line, okay, and I'll show on the other side of the world too, the Neptune line kind of has also like a strong amount of like blues. So I want to see if I can pull up a hotel close here. So here's Shiokensi. And this is the Neptune line. So here it is, again, all seafood. And this is all like what culturally you would find in Japan to be like, this is what would be like low class food, or like poor people's food. And it's still presented beautifully. They try to, at least at the very bare minimum. And I find that there's some, you see blues and some other interesting colors, but yeah, like it's about seafood. And anything about Japan, they have a big seafood market there because that's all they have is oceans. And so if you know the location, you kind of start to understand like how these places work for you. Like this is Special Cafe, right? This little tiny little tiny little place, right? And look, water, like it's rainy day here in Japan, you know what I mean, in the photos. And so you can get this kind of very Neptune sense, right? Like it looks kind of lonely right here. And it's very grayish, right? I don't feel very, very good at this area. In particular, I think it's because it's my Neptune descendant. Yeah. So, but what I found on the Venus line, and you can see kind of the differences between the Neptune and the Venus line, right? Is that here, getting closer and closer to the beach and stuff, here is a couple of beach resorts. So this one's, I think, about one of the closest ones to it. And on the Venus line, okay, I want you to see the differences here. In Japan, this is what a hotel would look like. It's very clean, all right? And this is like you have the bed on the floor. This is how Japan is, right? And it's, again, all seafood, right? This is again, lower end resort, right? But like they still try to make everything beautiful and presentable in Japan as best as they can. No matter what they do, it's always about presentation when it comes to food. So to me, this is something that like I could get used to like living at, you know what I mean? And for other people, this might look like absolutely horrible and shocking, and like, I wouldn't want to live there, but to someone like me, this is much better feeling. And I want to say, like, okay, on the opposite spectrum, I'm just going to pinch and zoom. It's much easier for me just to pinch and zoom. And then I will go to Bermuda, okay? I'm going to type it in the search here. I need to close this ad so I can do this. So I'm typing Bermuda. And this is where, pretty close to my Jupiter, I think it's my Jupiter descendant line. Jupiter descendant line. And I was looking at places that were like really close as I could get to the Jupiter line. And so for me, these are Cambridge beaches, okay? And for me, I thought that this was absolutely beautiful. I thought the colors were stunning. You see more greens, by the way, right, on the Jupiter line. Some more, you have these aqua blues, but you see a lot more greens. And I think it's just super interesting that like you can get this like energy feeling from like there. I don't know how you feel about it. I think this is like a really pretty little getaway. Like if you're gonna live in a little island, it should look like this. You know what I mean? And this is a resort, so you're gonna get more of, I mean, compared to some of the other places, you saw more blues, it was more dreary. From here, it's more sunny. There's a lot more greens, some bright pinks, and these just, to me, this is absolutely beautiful. And I could, if I was going to live in a lonely island away from the world, this would be it. Bermuda would be absolutely it for me. This beautiful palette of colors. Maybe the interior design isn't necessarily the best at this particular place, but like this is a very jungle feeling for me, and I love this. I love the tropics. I love being in tune with nature, and it's really interesting because I'm an Aquarius and a computer geek, right? And even the food here is like, I mean, just to me, this is just overwhelmingly beautiful. I love the isolation. The food here, even if it's not the most upscale, it still looks way better than the stuff on my Mars line for sure. And if I could show you now some differences, I will go to my boyfriend's chart, and I'll go to CosmoMaps here, actually. And I'm going to show just some of the things that we were looking at on his chart, where I can feel that I really liked being on his Venus line, and his other lines, I was like, oh my God, we have to go here. So we're gonna so some of the places I found were Open Sky, Zion, I think is what it was. And so this is, look how close this is to his Venus line. Like, and these other Zions that are in the area are also like really close to his Venus line. There's this tiny oasis here, and you have under canvas. And I'll show you the difference between under canvas and open sky, because they're like right on that Venus line of his. He has a Venus in Scorpio, so it's going to cost more money. It's almost $700 a night if you're to go this, on April 21st to 23rd. Ridiculous.
Jeez.
But for me, like, I was like, oh yes. For me, I love this. Like, this is the kind of interior design I love. It's modern, it's sleek. Look how secluded it is.
Can I say something which is really funny? Because again, I think that goes through my Saturn descendant. And again, it's rocky, it's gray, right? It's so secluded. And by the way, I'm someone who likes my Saturn lines. So it's kind of interesting, like how a point of view is different based on someone's lines.
Yeah, I mean, for me and him, we were both looking at this and we were like, oh my God, we have to go here. Like, I would do anything to come out here for 2 nights and make sure it's a clear open night on a new moon, so I can pull out my Galaxy phone and take a picture of this open night sky, so I can have a picture like this. Because this to me is what elegance, beauty, peace, and isolation from the world looks like. And I need isolation. Sometimes you just need to get off the grid. That's how I feel. And I feel like a place like this is totally something I would love to enjoy. It would cost us a lot of money, and of course his Venus line would, on a Scorpio, being a Scorpio Venus, would be a lot more costly. But I mean, the beauty is worth it to me. Like, I love this. Now, this particular amenity, if you look at it, doesn't have a food, like they don't provide food there. You have to like kind of bring your own thing. We were looking at it, and they basically have like a grill, and that's it for food. So you have to kind of bring your own food to this this little stay here. And so that may not be the best option if you're looking to have food service to you. So these are things that you're gonna, when you start planning your travel, to really like, this will give you a feel, what you're gonna like and not like. I have a feeling I'm gonna like this and I'm gonna love it. I also feel like it's gonna eat up a lot of money. So I got to plan for that. Under canvas Zion, similar to it in price. Watch this, $541 a night. And it's a different type of Zion, where it's all wood. It's in the middle of nowhere. So I'm sure Cindy's like, oh, this is the middle of the rocks. Like, but here,
I wouldn't mind it if I wanted to be alone, but yeah, I kind of, like, wow, all that money to be alone.
Right. Well, I like that. I mean, I love the sound of peace and open vapidness, like open space emptiness. I love the sound of that. And like nature, I really resonate with it. That's why I like beaches and stuff like that. But you can see the quality of the food is very upscale on this Venus Scorpio, because his Venus is in Scorpio. But I mean, to me, this is absolute elegance. It's very beautiful. I love the woods with the white and the neutrals. Like, this is something I could like. I very much love. So I do love his Venus line. Even the burger and French fries thing is more elegant and upscale. It's served with this elegant cocktail with wine. I mean, they're serving you there. So at least if you are gonna, eat there, you know what I mean? They're servicing you. And to me, this is absolutely beautiful. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but the way I feel with the remote activation is I am already being pulled in, and I want to go here to his Venus line. You know what I mean? And I know he wants to, because he's a Virgo rising. He loves these clean things. He loves these neutral palettes. He's a Libra sun, so like we both love this type of thing. And so, and I have a Venus in Capricorn, so it's sextiles by sign a Venus in Scorpio. So I like something like this, right? And we were looking at some other places too, like his Venus. So okay, let's go over here. This is so cool. So interestingly, yeah, so this is where his Venus ascendant line goes through, okay? Is it ascendant or is it descendant? Yeah, Venus ascendant line. And we were looking at some of the places on here, and it's so interesting because like here in this little area, this is clearly like a different part of Spain. And here's the hotels that are like right on there. And actually, I'll show you this other one. This is the one that we found. It was more up this way. This is all like within a small driving distance of, they're all very like relatively close. So this is the Laguna, I think is what it was. Yeah. And so here's his Venus ascendant line here. And again, it's very, you know, roses, very colorful, very, you know, you see these blues again. He actually really liked the yellow was working with it. I hate yellow, but he really liked the way that this looked. This is a rental place. It's basically a house you rent out there. And it's very secluded. It's within walking distance to the beach. And, you know, reasonably for travel, like this is something that like I would accept for traveling. I think that the reds really complement it. I would not mind sitting out here for, you know, after a day of being at the beach, sitting out in the back underneath all these, you know, underneath all these flowery trees and relaxing. You know, this is a great place for a honeymoon. Look how Venusian this is with all the pinks, you know, and we've actually colored the Venus line to be pink, you know. And this is because of the planetary colors, like planets have certain affiliations with certain colors. So you can see that, you know, compared to the Mars line, which was absolute reds, the Jupiter line, which was some more greens, the Neptune lines, you saw more blues, the Venus lines, we see more warm colors, which is like these pinks and these woods. And so to us, this was very pretty, you know, and it's supposed to be more affordable, but it's also, you know, kind of expensive. So planning a trip around this, it's like, well, you know, what do you think you're going to get into? You know, what are you going to expect? Here is the a beach house that you would rent. It looks like a little trailer, but like it's a little house you can rent on the beach. And again, it's all these woods you see, right? It's all this wood texture with Venus, which is I found really interesting, but it's right on the beach. So that makes sense, like why that would be. And the restaurants there on his chart, which we looked at, some of these, I think they were more closer to the beach anyway. Yeah, like the La Dolce, which means like the caramel life or the sweet life, that's what it means. We can view the restaurant there on his Venus line, right? And look at this little hut, more wood, right? And the food there, like that's a pizza. You know, I like these kind of things. I think these are beautifully presented Italian foods, right? This is pretty close to Italy, so it makes sense, you know, but it's also in Spanish. So it's really interesting, the cultural mixings there. But for me, the presentation is way more wholesome. The food looks a lot cleaner than some of the foods on my Mars line, right? So via remote activation, I'm like, okay, I know for a fact if I was on vacation, I would totally go down on this caramel cake here on this little, but this is the kind of clean foods I normally eat on a daily basis. So, you know, it's kind of like the best of both worlds. And again, for me, this is the kind of world I would like to live in. I don't know how Cindy feels about this. How do you feel?
I think it's pretty, but you know, when you were showing things where you're seeing more pink, I was seeing a lot more stone, which is a lot more Saturn.
Yeah. So the way you're going to feel with remote activation when you look at something like this is you're going to feel like a whole different world. then someone else is going to view it. And so if you're planning a trip with a partner, this might be a good way of like being able to be like, hey, we can finally agree on something, right? Just make sure it's not a Pluto line, I guess. Another quick thing I want to point out is that his Uranus line goes over the Bahamas, which is where I want to go. I want to go back to Bahamas. I love the Bahamas. It's further away from my Pluto line, so I'm not too worried about it. And so ironic. Okay, so like in the middle of nowhere, right? There is this Bishops. I think it's Bishops. It must be. It's either High Rock Hideaway or it's probably going to be this one here. This is the Uranus line.
But you see how easy it is to just click from his map and get to these photos for remote activation. I mean, he's like hopping back and forth from place to place so easily that you can't do this on any other software.
Yeah, I mean, and this is only the beginning. So, and we'll get to that here in just a moment. But I mean, look at the electric blues on his Uranus line. Like, and of course, it is the Bahamas. You're going to see more blues in general. But I mean, electric blues. Like, what are the odds that this place right on his Uranus line is going to be this like Uranian blue color? You know what I mean? Like, and I see this theme consistently when it comes to the planetary lines. Like, we were looking at Cindy's Mars line, or we were looking at my Mars line, and there was like red tractors on the hotel property and stuff like that on the Mars line. It was just very off-putting. So this is his Uranus line, and so you could see the electric blues. And technically Freeport, Bahamas, where I want to, where I have a, basically I won a cruise to a few years back, and I just haven't been able to claim it. It's the one that got canceled on my Pluto line, right? So this is the area where like we would be going, and I've been in this area before. My last time I was in the Bahamas, I was at the Grand Lacayan Resort, but like these are, you know, this would be close to his Uranus line, and these are the kind of experiences we'd be having in the Bahamas. So I feel like, again, look at these electric blues. It's not like the deep Neptunian blues you get. It's the more of electric and bright blues. You know, the one thing about the Bahamas is that their oceans are crystal clear. So when you go into the ocean at the beach there, it is crystal clear water. And then when you're out of it and you go into the deep parts of it, it looks turquoise. So you're going to get these Uranian colors in, you know, in areas like this. And it's just, to me, this is actually very beautiful. And for someone that doesn't like green, to me, this is a workable palette because browns, whites, and greens work really well together. They're really warm colors. So these are actually one of the resorts that are on my resorts I can pick for that particular vacation. So that's kind of how remote activation works. I am learning a lot about my energy and my chart, you know, and I'm still getting a feel for, like, you know, for where we're going to go travel to next. You know, him and me together, where we're going to be like, okay, how can we get a nice balance of it being affordable, and how can we get it to be not where, you know, where we can both agree on it, and being both, you know, I'm a Libra rising, he's a Libra, and that's going to be a interesting thing to balance, right? So and Cindy, like we said before, is going to be providing interpretation, so hang in tight as we keep updating it. And, you know, there's some features that we want to definitely add into the site and into this application, such as we want to add like a transit version of this, you know, and where we can do transits, and we want to add things like personalized delineations that Cindy will be writing for, like, you know, if you have a bad Mars, or if you have certain Mars in aspects, like, you know, for example, I have a Mars in detriment. So I'm being in Taurus. My Mars doesn't do very well in Taurus, and so there, you know, she would have a specific delineation for, you know, Mars being, you know, in rulership versus exaltation versus fall versus detriment, and so you can get more personalized things for each chart, being like, hey, this is what you might experience on this line, you know, and so it will help you with your understanding where to relocate, where to travel to. And then, you know, we're going to add some features where, you know, where you drop these little pins. You can drop more than one pin, by the way. So I'll show. you can drop more than one pin. And so we're gonna have once we get relocation charts added into the calculations here, we're gonna have a button for you just to be able to click, like not only view on Google Maps, but then another one for relocate and open up a new relocated window. So you can drop a bunch of pins anywhere if you want to aim them to be closer on your lines, relocate the charts that way. There's a lot that we have planned, and we really just need your guys' support financially, because this is an expensive endeavor. I've been pouring my personal time and money into this for quite some time, and it costs a bit of money to run the site, and we need to be able to keep pushing, and be able to pay the bills. We got there's company expenses that come through, on a yearly basis, and in order to keep providing stuff and growing this site, we really ask you guys to support us, get that AstroCloud Plus membership, so that way we can roll out new memberships and new exclusive software that you won't get anywhere else, and really like driving directions and all this other stuff that we really have planned. We have a lot of stuff planned to really add different versions of this calculation, and we need to keep growing, and we need your guys' support to make this dream come true. And right now, like we said, the site's a work in progress. There's things being added all the time, and I'm constantly working on this every day of the week. And we're going to be, we have a whole list of plans here in the software information page, where we're planning on here in progress relocation charts and astrology maps, and we're estimated to be done with the first phase of this come the beginning of April, and then relationship tools are coming up, and we're hoping to get the interpretations lined up this spring, and I'm hoping that this fall we can start working on a social network, and next year I'm hoping that we can get to AI and native Android apps and Windows apps and iOS apps and Mac apps. We're in order to make this the truly multi-platform cloud-based software, we ask that you guys support us, even if it's just to book a reading with me, and you can do that here. Cindy will soon be able to allow you to be able to book a reading with her, but in our shop, please check it out. Consider that one-year membership, because we're offering it for a very short amount of time, a full year of AstroCloud Plus, which is normally $49.99 for a year, for 50% off for a first year while we're in these baby phases, while we're hatching. Code launch 2023, all capitals. Just add it to your checkout here, and I'll just show you real quick. Just go to my cart.
So can I inject here?
Yes, go ahead.
Basically, the way that we're asking you to support us is to get a membership. Whether the membership is a paid membership, or if you're just going to go to the site and become a free member, so that you could, because we have very high security in the site, and it's protecting your security as well. It's almost hack proof. I mean, I can't ever make a claim that something's hack proof, but Joseph, because he built this from the ground up, he uses the utmost security. We're even getting two-factor authentication soon, but we don't even have a donate button up there. So we're not asking you for the PBS help, we're not patronizing for that. But if you go and you make a membership, that helps because it drives traffic to the site. But the other way is to buy either a monthly membership, which is you could, it goes month to month. You could just end it at the end of a month if you want to. If you end it before the end of the month, you still get the usage until that 30-day mark. So that's $4.99 a month. And then we have a special, if you buy the whole year membership, you get about 2 months off. It's like $49.99, but we're going to give you a special discount code so that it is 50% off of that. You get a whole year's worth of that. With the whole year's worth of that, you also get, and whether you're doing monthly or annual membership, you get all the rollouts for free. You get everything before we start, stratifying the memberships even further. Because of the Astro location software that we're building, we're we're going to offer asteroids. We're going to offer interpretations. We're going to offer showing you when the parents cross over you, when the lines cross over you, the more precise methods of traveling to your solar return chart, using precession rather than just like, okay, well, let me figure out where it is in the same spot in the sky this year at the time I was born or whatever. And so, you won't get stratified into those different membership levels. You get it all. You get to watch us grow. I don't know if it's fun for you guys I don't know if you've ever been into music or something and you start off watching a band just before they sign and then they sign and then they break through. I could tell you, at least with my clients, when they used to know me before I started making it more national and getting on TV and radio regularly, they call up like, oh my God, we heard you on the radio. We saw you on TV. Like, maybe you guys might feel, if you feel that, I mean, you'll get that gratification. That's part of, what you get back when you get a membership. If not, I mean, you get so many other additional benefits. And again, you could cancel anytime. We don't do refunds because it's software. I mean, once, you commit to buy, but that's why you could get like a free membership. And we also have like a free 7-day trial so that you could even try some of the advanced delineations and advanced techniques that we have in there. Just so, you don't have to commit with risk. You commit knowing what you're getting into. I put the link inside of the shop. Antonella is saying she has a Chromebook, so she's limited, but really, Antonella, you don't have to have, I mean, it doesn't matter what device you're on. It just matters that you have access to the internet and you could get on the internet that way.
Yeah, and actually a Chromebook supports the website. So if you use Google Chrome on your Chromebook, it's going to support things like push notifications, and it's going to support the installation of the progressive web app. And we had showed that earlier in the video. So if you rewatch the video, we'll show you how that's
because
done.
She gets a little bit more because it's astrology powered by Google, and that a Chromebook is like a Google, it's a Google product. So I mean, you're getting everything without missing out on, it's not an extra step like you would have to take on Safari or something, for example.
Yep, and you won't be advertised too if you get the membership. So, you get a very clean experience. It's even faster loading. And so again, guys, just like, support us, please. Even and also to stay in the know. If you subscribe here to our newsletter, we're going to be sending out weekly updates with bug fixes, new features, all this other stuff to keep you in the loop of what's changing and what's happening on the site. We're going to be working on building a new help center, so that way, and that's in the works. It's not 100% ready yet, but we will be, creating a help desk for you to be able to ask any questions. And again, if you have any issues with the site too, if you have any problems, just email me at support@astrologeeks.com. Let me know of those, if you run into an issue or a bug, and I'll work quickly to fix it and resolve it. You suggest some features that you want to see from us. This is in the creative phase, so like your feedback greatly helps us build and create and do something that's tailored to what the astrology community actually wants in the modern day. So, again, just please consider a year-long membership. Launch 2023, all capitals. For new members, for brand new members, your first-time payment, please. That you get your whole year of all the benefits and more once we add them in. Once we add more benefits, we add these personalization reports for CosmoMaps. You'll get all this for $25 for your first year. I mean, you really can't beat that. And that helps us grow and maintain pushing and going further and trajecting into the future. So I think now's a good time, Cindy. I'm gonna stop sharing. I think now's a good time if we want to answer some questions and all this other stuff. So.
Okay, so Amira, thank you. She just got the annual. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
She says, I think it's a really fair deal, especially with the coupon. Thanks. Thank you. Actually, every little bit does help, because we've been doing, if you noticed, what's really funny is Joseph and I were hoping to make some sales and stuff. And what was funny about it was like, we should really have been promoting this more in the beginning as far as the sales, but because we really love the astrocartography, we kind of got carried away with that. So you're not getting relocation astrology software from people that just want to sell it for the sake of selling it. You're getting it from people that have built it straight from their hearts. And I mean, I think I'm pretty much an expert with it. I would go ahead. I mean, I want to stay humble here. But I have done a lot of traveling. I do a lot of clients. And when it gets down to actually the nitty gritty of building your own software, you really start to know the astrocartography inside out, from not just the calculations, but the astronomy of it, even going back to the history of it, like, how far back in history did relocation astrology go? So, you participating and getting the membership, of course, really does make a difference, even if it's a free membership. I mean, because we have ads on the site that helps to drive traffic and ad revenue for us as well. Of course, it is a lot better if you just get the monthly or annual subscription.
Yeah,
Rolf is
anything
saying you
helps.
guys are awesome.
Oh, you're awesome too, Rolf. I mean, everybody here in this group is awesome. So we really are really excited to do this, and we're really looking forward to the future. And Amina just also said, like, she wants to see some interpretations for minor aspects. Listen, there's a lot of delineations to add. Okay, we're trying to fill the book on every single natal placement, natal aspect, transit placement, transit aspect, sign, through the houses, through the signs, and adding rulerships for each of the signs too. Like, for example, if Mars is trine your natal moon and the moon is lord of the 10th house, then, ruler of the 10th house, then, because you have a Cancer midheaven, for example, then that's really good for career. You know what I mean? So we're trying to add delineations like that in, where they can be really customized and personable. So that way, when you do, get your what's called like programmatic report, they're still more custom to you than just a basic interpretation. And there's still plenty more to add. Cindy's working on cosmic map lines, and those are going to be up. And then she has to go back in and add like planetary condition for all of them. And then we have to add interpretations for synastry at some point, and then progression. So there's a lot of work to do. And, I'm working on the software end as much as possible. Cindy's working on some content. I got to come back in and add content. So we're working, it's just the two of us. And I've been working so far, just to be aware, this has taken me 2+ years to get to this point. So, we are definitely looking into making this as quick as possible, but it is a lot of work. So financially, your support helps us keep going, helps us pay the bills, helps us make this vision come true, and allows us to keep pursuing this dream. So really appreciate it. And
Yeah.
again,
And
shoot
keep
us
in
that
mind,
email if you have trouble. Message me, support@astrologeeks.com. Any issues, especially if you're a customer, come to me right away at that email, and I will respond in less than a day. And during the daytime, I'm pretty quick to respond. And if you have any requests, shoot them to us. Any ideas, any contributions to make, we're here to try and customize this and build this into something that everyone will like. So
it's a labor of love. And keep in mind, it's just the two of us at this point. So when we're doing customer service, Joe is pretty quick to reply, usually within 24 hours. But if you see anything that's like really major and stuff, we'll get on it right away. But we, again, this is a labor of love. We're continuing to work on this, but memberships help. So hint, hint, keep going there. Also, if you want a reading from either me or Joseph, you could book through his website, or you could go directly to us. You could just, I do have our information inside of the event page frequently asked questions. And you should follow us on Facebook as well, because we will be posting updates of delineations to our personal profiles, our business profiles. So, you know, keep us in mind there. And it's nice when you're like the first in line, like when you're at the front of the parade, there's no other better feeling. At least, I mean, I feel that way. And I'm a Taurus. Taurus is not going to rush to the front. So, let me see. Isabel Mulville says that live on my Saturn descendant, have lived on Pluto line, not sure the full explanation, but was very confrontational. Yeah, we were just giving some of our experiences on, you know, this little short tidbits on how it's been like on our different lines there. Terry McMurphy says, thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Joseph. And earlier in, he did say, thanks for demonstrating this work. Well, thank you, Terry, for being here and watching it.
Thank you so much.
I don't know if there's, oh, one last thing on remote activation, just to throw it in. When you're dealing with your partners, you could benefit from their lines as well. So like I just showed you, my husband's Venus MC was like 7 miles from where we live. I get a lot of benefits from his Venus line. And when we go over his Uranus ascendant line, what's really funny, it's always me involved in throwing him off his course by accident, because it's that horizon of ascendant, descendant. So keep that in mind when you start looking into new locations. And once Joe builds in the synastry, that will be another another aspect to, you know, more benefit of the membership that you could get. So these are, you know, we could get to it faster if we're getting income here, because, you know, then we could possibly even hire people to help with coding or with setting up things in the website, and giving us more time for you guys. So I think, Joseph, we're pretty much done
we're
here.
it for today. We've been going for about 2 hours and 45 minutes. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people probably dropped off at this point. We'll come back later, but yeah, that's where we're at. And yeah, I'm looking forward to being able to add more and create more. So I think it's a good places to drop off. I'm tired, so.
All right. See you guys, and thank you very much for watching.
Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.